What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
9 Shish. Chapter 221 New Fetters. As long as Luffy is injured in place, 4 emperors will be destroyed for you. Open black lens bracket ask monthly ticket close black lens bracket. Advertisement. P.S. I asked for a monthly pass at the beginning of the month. Did everyone go to play? Luffy looked at the stunned people and nodded in satisfaction. He said to Hancock, that's the decision. Hancock was only looking at Luffy, who was beautiful at level 18, and completely missed the shocking story Luffy just said. When he saw Luffy talking to him, he nodded subconsciously. Oh. Agreed. Everyone. Hancock froze for a moment, covered his flushed face and said shyly, what's wrong with me? I couldn't refuse Luffy's request, so I couldn't help but agreed to go to the government, but I didn't feel scared at all. Grandma Niu said solemnly, this is love. Love comes like overwhelming mountains. You can't see the pain of the person you miss. If you don't save it, you will be weak and die. The previous emperors met the person they admired. Because they were emperors, they killed this feeling and chose to stay on the island. In the end, they died in depression. End. Now you agreed to Luffy's request to go to naval headquarters, not only saved your own life, but also found a way out for the daughter country. It's really great to be able to do this. Granny Niu said with an expression of recalling her youth. This is a woman who falls in love, I have also had such a time. Ah, Granny Niu, your complexion is very bad, are you okay? Margaret asked worriedly. Mother-in-law, pipe exclamation mark. It's so annoying. Hancock then made an alliance with Luffy as the king of Dotterland. And at the moment of forming an alliance, Luffy, who wears the title, is instantly worshipped +1 in the eyes of the people of Amazon Lily. And the voice of the system also sounded in Luffy's mind. Congratulations on successfully subduing the first Shichibukai faction, completing the achievement, triple standing, and getting 20,000 achievement points. Congratulations on completing the personal achievement, First Blood, get 20,001 achievement points. Congratulations on getting the new fetter. Empress Boa Hancock. The more injured the host is, the stronger Hancock will be, and the increase in strength will be boosted by the strength of the host. Quote. Luffy rubbed his brows, and glanced at Hancock beside him. Luffy is not sure if the ridicule from netizens in the previous life is true. But now Luffy is sure that proverb must have come true. As long as Luffy's injury is in place, the 4 emperors will be useless for you. At this time, Luffy's collection points have risen to 17 points, and his achievement points are as high as 46,537. Luffy looked at the skills in the collection section, with excitement in his eyes. Advertisement. In the next 2 days, Luffy led Robin and Khalifa to have a 2-day banquet in Amazon Lily. Until 5 days before the public execution, Luffy led all members of the 9 Snake Pirates to the shore of 9 Snake Island. This time, he not only brought Hancock back to naval headquarters, but also led all members of the 9 Snake Pirates to participate in the battle, so that the Amazon female warriors could better join the Marine after the war. Looking at the still unmelted ice around 9 Snake Island, Hancock has turned from anger to admiration. Luffy is amazing. And Robin complained darkly behind him. Why did your body become like this? It was midday, and Luffy's body had ballooned to Whitebeard's size. The muscles on his body are like horned dragons. At noon, I am the only one in the sky and on the earth. Luffy felt the boundless power in his body, and he could finally understand the reason for arrogance, the sin of arrogance. The soaring strength in his body made him feel that everyone was as small as ants. It's like the arrogance of Luffy's former immortal cultivator whose strength soared and whose state of mind couldn't keep up. I saw Luffy stretch out a finger, the magic power of the sun slowly condensed on the fingertips, and the terrifying high temperature instantly swept everyone. So hot. Everyone backed away in horror. Sun of mercy. Burst of pride. I saw Luffy lightly throw the ping-pong ball-sized sun on his fingertips to the ice surface outside 9 Snakes Island. The sea frozen by Zanpakutō instantly melted and boiled. A large amount of steaming fog covered the entire island in an instant, and even the sea level dropped a little at that moment. Afterwards, a large amount of outer seawater poured back, and the sea surface of Calm Belt set off a huge wave. A minute later, Luffy's size suddenly shrunk several times. Although his muscles were still bursting, it was far from the minute at noon. The huge emptiness made Luffy feel like his body was being hollowed out. Let's go. Go back to naval headquarters. Luffy waved his hand, and stretched out his thick arm to directly embrace the 3 of Hancock on the biceps. Advertisement. This kind of boyfriend's explosive posture can only be done by Luffy in this template. The girls of the 9 Snake Pirates behind them screamed like Nympho. Luffy stepped on the waves and walked directly to the warship. The people of the 9 Snake Pirates swam on the huge sea snake towards the place where the pirate ship stopped before. Luffy Vice Admiral, Marshal Garp's phone number. As soon as he boarded the ship, a marine soldier hurried over and handed him a phone bug. Monkey D. Luffy. Sengoku's roar came. It's been 4 days. Empress Hancock hasn't agreed yet. Luffy took the phone and clicked his ears. Here, what are you talking about? I brought you the 9 Snake Pirates. Sengoku was taken aback when he heard the words. You must know that Hancock has never been to Mariajoy once since accepting Shichibukai, even if it was a summoning order from the world government. Originally, sending the flying squirrel vice admiral was just a formality. After all, Shichibukai represents the power of the world government. Although it is useless in Sengoku's view, it is still necessary to save face. But now Luffy actually said that he invited all the 9 snake pirates and Hancock. What you said is true. Sengoku's skeptical voice came through the phone bug. How dare you question your concubine's husband, how rude. Hancock stepped forward and pointed at the phone bug and shouted contemptuously. Sengoku on the opposite side was so dumbfounded. My wife, husband, your uncle, did you go to call someone, or go on a blind date? Sengoku looked at the phone bug with his head up and said to Luffy, okay, come back as soon as the task is completed, nuo how, and go to Impel Down on the way to help the prisoner in Impel Down for public execution. The group of prisoners is crushed. Luffy was taken aback. It seemed that the disappearance of the Whitebeard pirates made Sengoku a little anxious, and even wanted to transfer the prisoners to the headquarters so many days in advance. Okay, I see, I'll go, where's the old man? Luffy asked Sengoku. Hearing Luffy ask Sengoku, his face turned livid. What did you say to your grandpa? Why did he drive away in a hurry after sending you off? Do you know what time it is now? He is not here at this time. Shop. Clap. The phone bug was hung up by Luffy. Sengoku was so angry that he blew his beard and stared. Damn you two bastards, grandpa and grandson are not good people. Come on. Where is the construction progress? There is a little bit of trouble, all of you what a punishment. As for Luffy who hung up the phone bug, there was a strange expression on his face. Is it really true? If so, ace. Hee hee. Advertisement Chapter 222 The war is coming, the task of escorting prisoners. Advertisement. In the marshal's office, Sengoku put down the phone bug with a relieved expression on his face. I didn't expect that woman would agree to join the war, and now 5 people came. Sengoku fell into deep thought. Except for that rebellious Bartholomew Bear and that brainless seaman Jinbei, everyone is already in place. How is the one in prison? Sengoku asked a Marine Rear Admiral who was on call, almost calmed down. No, it seems that they are still firmly opposed to the war. It is said that they are ready to be deprived of the title of Shichibukai. Rear Admiral hurriedly reported. Damn it, I thought that was the only one actively helping us. Sengoku frowned. I didn't expect to come here and make a big fuss. Jinbei B****************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** report to the Marshal, because of the Sabaody Archipelago incident, Kizaru Admiral and Luffy Vice Admiral captured more than 500 pirates for the top bag, and now Impel Down said it was too late to file. Meh, Sengoku. Let them go. Damn it, 033 is still causing trouble with me at this time, and now don't report to me except about Whitebeard. But, World Noble Roads World Street. Sengoku covered his face with an ugly expression, and subconsciously blurted out, get him out. Yes, Colonel Marine was just about to go over. Immediately, Sengoku stopped and scolded. Stop. Garp's grandpa and grandson are idiots, are you an idiot too? Let Akainu go over there to appease them. That damn guy Garp, where did he go? Colonel Marine twitched helplessly, didn't you say let him go? Report to the Marshal. Another Herald officer ran in, the Whitebeard fleet stationed on the Fishman Island has disappeared. Are you here? Sengoku's expression changed when he heard the words, did the Watcher report it? Let me talk to him personally. I'm sorry, Marshal, the communications sergeant bowed his head and said, the Marine soldiers in charge of monitoring may have. Sengoku was silent for a moment, waved his hand and said, okay, I see, have you been preempted? What about New World? Many large fleets under the Whitebeard pirates have set off, and many surveillance ships have lost contact. Beep. Advertisement. Sengoku's face changed. Don't know where to attack. During the period of transporting prisoners, even Impel Down may start a decisive battle. Keep an eye on Impel Down. Yes, the officers in charge of the standby responded in unison. At this time, Garp was rushing from G2 Marine Base to Naval Headquarters full of joy, and beside him stood an orange-haired Marine female major. Measures. Ha ha ha, Yi Sika, don't follow me outside to blow the wind, go into the house, how did you meet him at that time? Garp excitedly opened the door of the cabin, speaking and acting as if he was treating his own daughter. The female major named Yi Sika walked into the cabin with a blushing face upon hearing this. As the date of Ace's public execution approached, famous and powerful Marines from all over the world began to appear frequently in the port of Marineford, and all combat forces in the name of justice gathered at the Marine headquarters. On the other hand, in the Holy Land, Mariajoy, the Shichibukai pirates who have been assembled are assigned to different battle camps under the watchful eye of Suru Vice Admiral. And except for Moria who brought her terrifying 3 trick ships over, even Shichibukai came here alone to support. Everyone eats and drinks at Mariajoy with their own minds. And at this time Luffy here. Hancock. Hancock. Luffy yelled twice at Hancock who was looking at him with his chin dragging. Hancock suddenly covered his face as if he didn't hear it at all. Ah, I'm so ashamed. Ah, ha ha, ah ha ha, no, no. Well, it seems that he is imagining some unsuitable images for children again. Looking at his thin body now, Luffy decided to go and study with Robin about 100 years of blank history. After 3 days of driving like this, Luffy finally ended his painful and happy sea voyage. For the past 3 days, Luffy has basically not been able to leave the captain's bedroom, especially after hearing that there are Nami, Vivi, and Century Sea. Finally, a huge portal directly to the Tongtian appeared in front of the warship. A marine knocked on the door and reported to Luffy, Luffy Vice Admiral, Admiral Pelton has arrived. Advertisement. I'm coming. Luffy hurried out of the room. Hancock on the bed looked at Luffy's back with a happy face and made up his mind. I'm still a little worried about Luffy's female companions. In Hancock's mind, Chong Yao's movie version of the farewell mode was activated again, tearfully biting the quilt and said excitedly, you must tell yourself what you do wrong. Everything will be changed in person. Yashin will never give up. Luffy raised his eyebrows. It seems that the degree of importance is acceptable, it is already more exaggerated than that of Buster Call. Luffy outside the door hastily took 2 steps towards the deck, MD, etc. Lousy has run out of this template, so I must tell you what is called flexible love. The warship and the perfume snake of the 9 snake pirates slowly sailed under the gate of justice. Then she quickly put on her clothes and pointed at the door, shouting, if you want to ask why, it's because I think about Luffy more. Opposite. When everyone heard the words, a look of astonishment appeared on their faces. It's that Sabaody Archipelago who beat the nobles of the world for us, Luffy Vice Admiral. Open the door. Luffy Vice Admiral, we need an answer to the code. Looking at the few Vice Admiral Luffy who were very polite to him, he nodded and grinned at them and said, since you're here, why don't you take a good look around? Luffy leads Hancock, Khalifa and Robin off the warship. Oh, forgot, I'm Monkey D. Luffy, Marine number GO10086, I'm going to follow the current and prepare to open the door. Nani, Luffy Vice Admiral, with the noise of phone bugs, the huge door of justice is open. Luffy picked up the phone bug of Marine's special communication. Hello. Open sesame. And with it there are more than 20 warships stationed at Impel Down. The shadow of Impel Down caught everyone's eyes. Ghost Spider waited for Vice Admiral to come forward and greet him. Luffy Vice Admiral, I'm just waiting for you, let's start. It's inevitable. After all, no one can tell whether Whitebeard will attack the prisoners while escorting them. Khalifa stood behind Luffy and pushed his glasses and said. Advertisement Chapter 223 Magellan's Temptation. Advertisement. At this time Luffy walked slowly to the gate of Impel Down. Deputy Warden Hanbani and Deputy Warden Domino came out. Welcome to my Impel Down. Ah, wrong, ambition exposed. Hanbani scratched his head with his fork. Ah ha ha, I'm Hanbani, Deputy Warden, please take care of me. As this the Deputy Warden of the undersea prison with no one to escape. Looking at the frivolous Hanbani, Robin looked a little stunned. Luffy, however, took a completely different view. In the original timeline, Hannibal was the Deputy Warden of the large submarine prison. Luffy and others made a big noise about Impel Down, and Hannibal was ordered to stop it. However, because of his lack of strength, he was punched down by Luffy. Although Hannibal was knocked to the ground, he kept blaming himself in his heart. As the Deputy Warden, he couldn't beat the evil prison escaper. Even if you are covered in bruises and drag your bruised body, try to stand up. Facing vicious pirates one by one, he held the belief that death would be his home. The statement he made represents the justice in the hearts of most Marines. If you say something to save Big Brother, the dregs of society will not speak nice words. You are nothing but notorious pirates and conspirators. As long as you still at sea, the common people would stay up all night for fear of losing their loved ones, so to reassure the weak. This is the great fortress of hell. If it is destroyed, people will fall into infinite panic. Then Hanbani used his life to stand in front of Luffy, Crocodile, and other pirates. Knowing that he must die, he is willing to sacrifice his life to protect the peace of those civilians. Compared with the so-called friendship between Luffy and Bentham in the original timeline, it is more than one level worse. And it is also from this moment that Luffy in the original timeline has completely changed from an adventurer to a criminal who acts recklessly regardless of the consequences. Because all his actions are done according to his own preferences, but under the blessing of the protagonist Halo, his actions just happen to develop in a good direction. In the plot, Luffy has also said countless times that he wants to do this, but he just wants to do it, and has no idea of saving anyone at all. At this time, Hanbani saw Hancock beside Luffy and was excited. Ah, is this the Empress Hancock? My Empress Hancock. Ah, my ambition has been exposed. Don't call me by my first name, you fly. Hancock kicked Hanbani flying. Luffy spread his hands. Well, if it is not a critical moment, this guy is a cowardly and lustful villain. Advertisement. I'm going to level 6, arrange it for me. Luffy said to the bruised and swollen Hanbani. Ah, but Luffy Vice Admiral, without Marshal Sengoku's instructions, you can't get off Eternal Hell. Hanbali looked at Luffy in astonishment and said. The people who enter Eternal Hell are all some extraordinary people. They are either death row prisoners or life imprisoners, and they are all legendary figures. And the prisoner you are going to escort this time is only on the 5th floor. Hanbani said with a face of embarrassment. This group of captains of the Grand Fleet is different from Ace, and they are not worthy of being locked up with those legendary characters. Then go ask your warden. Luffy glanced at Hanbani, and Conqueror's Haki threw himself directly at Hanbani. Hanbani, who had just stood up, sat on the ground again with a plop. How is that possible? Bah, Conqueror's Haki. You must know that Marshal Sengoku is the only one who owns Conqueror's Haki in the entire Marine. Luffy Vice Admiral, the prison is currently in the warden's room on the 4th basement floor, I'll take you there right now. Hanbali stood up sweating profusely and said respectfully to Luffy. But the Marshal clearly stipulates that pirates are not allowed to enter this prison, you see. Han Fading carefully glanced at Hancock and asked Luffy. Luffy nodded and said to Hancock. You wait for me here, I'll be up right away. Hancock finally nodded despite his reluctance. Following Hanbani, Luffy and others took the elevator all the way to the 4th basement floor. At this moment, Hanbani issued a gas mask to several people and signaled them to wear it. Luffy waved his hand indifferently. I don't need it. Robin and Khalifa asked strangely, why do you bring this kind of thing? The Warden Magellan is a Paramecia poisonous fruit-capable person. He bluntly said that this guy's farts are poisonous, and his breath can poison people to death. Luffy explained to the two with a smile. The two put on gas masks as soon as they heard this. Hanbani looked at Luffy strangely. Since you know, don't you wear a gas mask? Luffy waved his hand. He was in the morning at this time, and his figure like a bodybuilding champion was the proof of the soaring magic power in his body. Although Nika fruit cannot defend against Magellan's toxins, the template of Ace Kano, the sin of pride, can easily burn these toxins. The head of the group, Meliodas, was once drank highly poisonous, but when the magic power was activated, the whole person recovered as if nothing had happened. Ask for flowers. Advertisement. And Ace Kano, who is also the sin of pride, can easily resist Magellan's poison in the morning. Entering the house, everyone did not see Magellan. No one. Robin looked around the office strangely. Suddenly there was a sound of footsteps coming from the back door, and a huge, Satan-like man came from outside the door clutching his stomach. Ah, it was a fierce battle today. Is this Luffy Vice Admiral? I am Warden Magellan. Magellan said hello with a relaxed face. Do you need to fight as the warden? Robin asked strangely. Because the poisonous gas he exhaled poisoned the food, and then the food was poisoned, he had diarrhea for nearly 10 hours a day. Hanbani explained from behind, the warden should get down from the position of the warden immediately. Ah, sorry I got it wrong. Luffy Vice Admiral wants to go to the Eternal Hell on level 6 for a turn. Hanbalini hastily corrected the words he had expressed in his mind. It's too much, the sentence you said wrong just now is too much. Magellan pointed at Hanbani and said dissatisfiedly, how can I have a subordinate who is as heartless as you? Ha. As he spoke, Magellan sprayed out a mouthful of purple poisonous mist, and the poisonous mist slowly spread from the room. Let's forget about this boring temptation. Luffy looked at the poisonous mist floating over and stretched out his fingers. The high temperature generated by the fingertips directly made the poisonous mist evaporate instantly, and the temperature in the whole room began to rise rapidly. Magellan looked at Luffy with a serious face. Never heard that this guy can control fire. I don't know what Luffy Vice Admiral wants to do when he goes to level 6. It would be a big problem for any criminal to be released there. Magellan asked Luffy. Of course I want to see it. Aren't the people locked there all the legendary big pirates? Is it normal for me to see them? Luffy spread his hands and said with a smile. Magellan looked at Luffy carefully, then nodded. Okay, I'll take you there. Prisoner. Hanbani's expression changed upon hearing this. Magellan directly interrupted what Hanbani wanted to say, you can only go by yourself. Of course, Luffy didn't dispute that. Then Robin and Khalifa stayed in the warden's office. And Magellan took Luffy to take the elevator down to the legendary Eternal Hell. Advertisement Chapter 224 Make up the knife, lock doll. Advertisement. In the Eternal Hell on level 6. A sound of iron chains sounded from the Eternal Hell along with the man's roar. I won't escape. It doesn't hurt at all. What hurts is my inability to implement benevolence and righteousness. If this goes on, I won't die. What is the title of Shichibukai? I don't want that kind of thing. If this war can be stopped, I don't have to lose my life. Hexia Jinbei's voice reached the ears of Luffy and others who had just entered the 6th underground floor. Magellan explained to Luffy. The original 7 warlords of the Sea Jinbei, when they heard that our marine was about to start a war with the Whitebeard pirates, they went to the headquarters to make a big fuss and were arrested. They shouted every day to stop the war. Quote. Luffy sneered, and walked directly to the door of the cell that originally belonged to Ace and Jinbei. Scarred, Jinbei suddenly raised his head and stared at the 137 prison. Does Marshal Sengoku agree with the old man's idea? Idea? What idea? Luffy sneered and looked at Jinbei inside the cage. Don't start a war with the Whitebeard pirates, it will start a war. Jinbei said anxiously. Luffy looked at Jinbei with contempt. So you Murlocs don't have enough brains to think things are always so simple, you know. Jinbei, hypocrisy is always more disgusting than evil. There are always some people who use the slogan of world peace to make others endure oppression, and shout to stop the war, but let the evil grow wantonly. Jinbei, what do you think of this war that Marine started with his life? Is it a joke? Let go of those so-called captains in exchange for Whitebeard's forgiveness. Do you want Marine to be a joke among the people of the world? Do you know what will happen to the world if Marine loses its prestige? It was a hell more hopeless than the era of the Great Pirate, an era of incomparably dark and chaotic blood. Do you expect pirates to know how to be merciful when they plunder? You expect the pirates to be merciful and spare those helpless civilians a way out. Don't be ridiculous, Jinbei, don't forget that pirates will always be pirates. The purpose of their going to sea is wealth, power, and fame. Advertisement. Your so-called stop war is just to keep the Fishman Island from falling into the flames of war again, your so-called peace bug is just to save the beard who has a ghost on you. Because you know that once the war starts, Whitebeard will die. Because the Marine is the most powerful force in this sea. Luffy's continuous ridicule made Jinbei speechless, and there was no doubt that what Luffy said was true. Even if there is no war now, letting the forces of the 4 emperors expand will cause a larger war sooner or later. Marines and pirates originally represent justice and evil. Since ancient times, good and evil cannot coexist. This is an eternal truth. Marine is the last line of defense of justice in this world. Anyone can make concessions, only Marine, Shu Ping, what you are doing now is no different from those trash-level celestial dragons who wantonly launched Buster Call under the banner of peace. Magellan, who was standing behind and listening to the excitement, staggered suddenly. Luffy Vice Admiral, this is not a good thing to say. Really? Ha ha ha, just pretend you didn't hear it, Luffy laughed. Are you here just to convince Jinbei? Magellan asked Luffy speechlessly. No, it's just annoyed to see him acting like lousy as for world peace. Luffy chuckled. The corners of Magellan's eyes twitched when he heard this, and Pooh's grandson really did whatever he wanted as rumored. Ha ha ha, another voice sounded, it seems to be very interesting outside, you are still so lawless, but I agree with what you said, a thief is a thief, Jinbei, I hate your hypocritical rhetoric. Everyone turned their heads, Luffy looked at the cell strangely, are you still alive? Lock doll. I remember when the government asked me for someone, didn't they say they would kill Li Wei? Why does he look alive and kicking? Luffy turned to Magellan and asked. Magellan scratched his head in embarrassment when he heard the words. I don't know the details, it seems that this guy is still useful for the world government. Oh, Luffy nodded, and a burst of hot magic power directly pierced Locke's chest. Nani? Magellan looked at Luffy in shock. Lock doll looked at his chest in a daze. Why do you keep this kind of scum, whitewashing? Luffy said coldly, looking at the fallen Crocodile. Advertisement. At the beginning, the world government took K-Lockadar away from him by saying that he would publicly punish him, but now it seems that K-Lockadar is not living well. It's hard for me to explain to the world government when you're like this, Magellan said with an ugly face. If you can't explain it, don't explain it. When will our marine depend on the face of the world government? Luffy said with a smile. A large amount of venom overwhelmed the screaming prisoners in the cage, and everyone wailed crazily from the neurotoxin pain, but even so, more of them survived with their terrifying physique. Magellan's face changed when he heard this, and he looked at Luffy vigilantly to prevent him from making a move at any time. As he spoke, he turned his head and walked towards the elevator again. The criminals who can be imprisoned on level 6 are all guys with terrifying strength. Afterwards, Luffy seemed to have had enough visits, and walked out without stopping at the 5th floor of Impel Down, holding the prisoners who were about to be publicly executed. Seeing this, Magellan yelled, "Shut up! Who do you think is in charge of this prison? Dragon!" Magellan looked at Luffy, who didn't stop at all with a look of surprise, and hurriedly followed and stared. He didn't want any major incidents to happen in the place under his jurisdiction. At this moment, all the criminals on level 6 laughed like crazy. Ha ha ha, lawless marine. As Whitebeard dying, Luffy chuckled and suggested to Magellan in a low voice, why don't we kill all the guys on level 6? Then Magellan shook his head. Well, forget it, I just need to make sure Impel Down is okay. That's great, that's great. Seeing Magellan's nervous expression, Luffy suddenly grinned. Just kidding, don't be nervous. Magellan, who had been tense all the time, finally breathed a sigh of relief when he saw Luffy leave. Monkey D. Luffy, what are you going to do? What he didn't realize was that at this moment, the door of the room where K-Lockadar was originally imprisoned on the 6th floor of Tebel suddenly opened slowly from the inside. Looking at the prisoners, Magellan snorted coldly, and then said to Luffy, Luffy Vice Admiral, it's time for us to go too, we've seen it. Many criminals ran away one after another. Let me go to see, and the one who wants to take his head is me. Advertisement Chapter 225 Apologize to me, Rayleigh, for appearing in my world for you. Advertisement. Puff ha ha ha. In the marshal's office at Naval Headquarters, Garp's laughter came. What's so funny, Garp? Sengoku yelled at Garp frantically, listen to the report from Impel Down. Your grandson killed the K-Lockadar that the world government wants, and also wants to kill the prisoner on level 6. Now I'm staying on the warship and I'm tired of the long journey. Do you know the seriousness of the matter? Every second they stay, the danger increases. Now the Whitebeard pirates and their subordinates, all the big ships have disappeared. PFF ha 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 ha. Garp laughed while eating Sengoku's senbei. It's so cool, it's my grandson. This kind of big event that shocked the world has caused us troubles one after another. Sabaody's illegal area, the Celestial Dragons incident, and now he is asked to escort a prisoner and has caused so many things. Do you know that the world government is about to explode? Harry. Sengoku was slapped on the table by Garp's grandpa and grandson. Looking at Garp, who was in a happy mood for some reason, Sengoku directly picked up his sleeve. 14 inches, are you kidding? Garp, if you weren't the hero of Marine, I have to let you take on the responsibility of your clan. Ha ha ha, the seriousness of this situation can't be solved with my life. Garp laughed so hard that tears almost fell out. Ha ha ha. You're still laughing. Do you know how much effort I and the crane have spent to deal with the aftermath? Sengoku angrily snatched all the senbei from Garp's hand, and poured them all on his mouth. Garp, who has been unmoved, became anxious when he saw Sengoku snatching his senbei. This is mine. Give it back. The few generals on standby at the side looked at their noses and their hearts, and said silently in their hearts, I didn't see anything, I didn't hear anything, I'm a wooden man. At this time, outside Impel Down, a group of vice admirals were anxiously walking around outside Luffy's warship. At this time, it was less than 2 days before the time for public execution, but Luffy had no intention of leaving at all. The ghost spider stood up with an ugly face. Damn. What does he think of the mission? I will go find him now. Daubman on the side quickly stopped him. Stop making trouble, he is Garp's grandson, don't you want to mess around? But, advertisement. The ghost spider wanted to say something more, but was stopped by Doberman. Don't worry, the impel down is only a few hours away from naval headquarters through the world government's exclusive ocean current, just wait a little longer. The ghost spider sat down on the port outside the Luffy warship with an ugly expression. Another night passed quickly, and there were only 22 hours left before the noon time agreed upon by the execution. At this moment, the ghost spider couldn't bear it any longer. He raised his sword and wanted to talk to Luffy. Damn it. If we don't set off, our marine will become the laughing stock of the world. However, just as he stood up, Luffy walked out of the cabin with a blank expression. Let's go. Back to naval headquarters. The hockey radiating from his body made the ghost spider choke back when he was about to speak. A group of people quickly packed up and drove towards naval headquarters at a very high speed. Marine, you will regret it. Daddy will come to save us. Wait to die, you have offended Shige's most handsome man. Father will definitely kill every single one of you Marines. Those captains of the big fleet shouted frantically in the prison, which was in stark contrast to Ace's remorse and reluctance to speak. Listening to the noise, Luffy said coldly, shut up, anyway, you have so many people, even if you die a few, it's the same for Whitebeard, right? This group of guys immediately shrank like quails when they heard the words. They were all pirates, not idiots like Ace, and they all knew what Luffy said was right. Marine uses them to fight against Whitebeard. Even if they are all dead, Whitebeard will inevitably fight Marine no matter for the so-called family in his heart or for his own prestige. Otherwise, the Whitebeard pirates, one of the 4 emperors, will basically be disbanded. No one wants to follow a master who can't even protect his subordinates, especially the Whitebeard pirates, who are also known for protecting their weaknesses. Everyone crossed the calm belt and came to the Gate of Justice. The sky-high gate slowly opened, and 11 warships and the perfume snake sailed into the sea current dedicated to the government. And also at this time, Marine, who was in charge of the lookout on the warship, was taken aback. He wiped his eyes carefully, and then stared at a black spot on the sea with wide eyes in disbelief. Advertisement. Master Luffy. Master Luffy. Someone is swimming in the sea. Everyone looked at the lookout in astonishment. Idiot. What are you kidding? How could someone swim here? You must know that there are no islands where you can settle down. What are you kidding? The ghost spider looked at Rayleigh and shouted, Rayleigh, do you know what you are doing? You want to stand on Whitebeard's side. Don't think that our marine doesn't know where you are. All these years have been peaceful, you come back for Whitebeard. He wiped the upper body of 960 soaked in seawater with his naked upper body, looked at the vice admirals and said with a smile, excuse me, can I trouble you to hand over the escorted people to me? As soon as the words fell, a violent explosion occurred in an instant on the most marginal warship in the fleet. The huge warship was broken into 2 pieces directly from the middle, and countless marine soldiers jumped into the sea in a hurry to prevent being taken into the deep sea by the sinking ship. Seeing the Luffy destroying the warships one after another, he directly pulled out the never-used axe Rita from the space and carried it on his strong shoulders. Several vice admirals looked at the figure in shock and exclaimed, Pluton. Silver Rayleigh. The watchman looked into the distance in shock. Really? He's already approaching the frigate. At this time, it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Although noon had passed, Ace Kano's template strength was still strong. At this time, the figure who attacked the warship jumped from the sea onto the slowly sinking deck. Young man, don't be so excited. Old man, I'm just entrusted by others, and I have some personal grievances with that Luffy vice admiral you led. Haha, don't worry, I only care about saving people, not relatives. Soon that warship followed in the footsteps of the first warship. Rayleigh laughed at Ghost Spider and the others, kicked a piece of the deck and threw it at another warship. He jumped on it and rushed towards the warship. In the next second, the deck exploded, and Luffy's figure burst out. Apologize to me, Futura. In my world for you. Luffy looked at Rayleigh arrogantly and said. That's right, the one who came to attack the warship this time was the right hand of the legendary One Piece, Pluton Rayleigh. Advertisement Chapter 226. Fierce Battle with Rayleigh, Haughty Luffy. Advertisement. Forgive me, young people nowadays don't know how to respect the old and love the young. Rayleigh on deck watched Luffy's leisurely opening burst from the sea. Immediately, he pulled out the long sword at his waist, and rushed straight towards the oncoming Luffy. At the same time, armament hockey was entangled on the long sword, and the black knife and the god axe Rita collided together. Nani. The moment Rayleigh came into contact with the divine axe Rita, his face changed drastically. The divine axe Rita that was not attached to hockey directly smashed it flying with a force far beyond his imagination. With a bang, Rayleigh crashed into the wreckage of the warship. If he looked carefully, he would find that there was a transparent magic between the axe Rita and his sword. Several vice admirals who watched were stunned and couldn't believe the scene in front of them. That is the right hand of the legendary One Piece. He is definitely a terrifying character who can stand shoulder to shoulder with Admiral, but he has already fallen into a disadvantage in the moment of the first confrontation. Luffy held the magic axe Rita chakra and stood on the turbulent water as firmly as Mount Tai. His sturdy aura impressed all the Marines watching the battle. I used to think you were a smart man, Rayleigh, now it seems that you are not only stupid, but also very unlucky. Luffy looked at Rayleigh in the wreckage of the warship and said arrogantly, unexpectedly ran to this kind of place to die, is that right? Swim through the gate of justice that I destroyed in Enies lobby. Quote. After Eni's lobby was annihilated, the mechanism that closed the door of justice was destroyed, and now the world government is stepping up to repair the switch. The door of justice has not been closed yet due to the previous Buster call. Apparently Rayleigh came through the gap there in this world government exclusive current. Boom. Rayleigh climbed up from the ruins, although he was a little embarrassed, but the previous attack did not cause serious damage to him. As expected of the guy who captured Ace, but your strength is a bit different from what Ace portrayed. Rayleigh shook his pantothenic arm in surprise. He came here this time because Ace entrusted him to rescue the cadres of the Whitebeard pirates from Marine, and he taught the guy who killed Hachi a lesson. Originally in Sabaody Island, he thought that Luffy had the ability to freeze fruit similar to Aokiji, but now it seems to be quite different from the information he knows. But if that's all, Rayleigh wouldn't be afraid of Luffy. After all, as Kaido said, Haki is the real king of the world. And Rayleigh can swim in the sea at will like Aokiji. What's more terrifying than Aokiji is that Aokiji still relies on the ability of Devil Fruit to ride a bicycle to travel on the sea at will. And Rayleigh swims directly to and from Hydra, which is outrageous as hell. I saw Rayleigh wrapped Haki around the sword again, jumped lightly, the deck shattered, and the whole person rushed towards Luffy as if flying. And Luffy ordered to the stunned Ghost Spider and others, look at the fart. Before you send someone to get the Marine who fell into the water, come up. Advertisement. Several vice admirals quickly ordered several warships to rescue those who fell into the water. Luffy, on the other hand, rushed towards Rayleigh like walking on flat ground in the sea. Now that it was past noon, Luffy's strength was slowly declining every moment, and he had to fight quickly. Boom. The axe Rita and the black knife collided again in the air, and the terrifying force made the two freeze on the sea. With a bang, the shock wave exploded. Rayleigh took advantage of the momentum and jumped back onto the floating wreckage of the warship. After a short stay, he attacked Luffy again. Luffy was also not to be outdone. He held up the one-handed axe Rita and swung it down. A large amount of mana is stored in the god axe Rita. Super slash dust slash. The blue veins in Luffy's right hand exploded, and the muscles soared like Zoro's strength. The terrifying magic power rushed towards Rayleigh like a slash. Different from the slash, the range of the dust slash is not as ridiculously large as the range of the slash. What kind of move is this? Rayleigh's expression changed, and he no longer cared about hiding his clumsiness. Emission was attached to the sword and collided with the terrifying magic power. The huge impact brought Rayleigh flying upside down, and the sea was directly divided into two by the terrifying shock wave. A dozen warships swayed back and forth with the raging waves. The Marines held onto the railing with difficulty to prevent themselves from falling into the raging waves. Luffy stands in the waves and drifts with the tide. Suddenly, a black shadow shot towards Luffy from the bottom of the water like a flying fish. Careful, several vice admirals exclaimed loudly when they saw this scene. Luffy didn't panic at all, and directly smashed down with the axe, and the magic power collided with the long sword in the domineering state. At this moment, Rayleigh was wet all over, but his aura was extremely high. The Black Conqueror's Haki flashed on the long sword like lightning. The weapons of the two were deadlocked in midair as if they were cut on an invisible wall. You're not Conqueror's Haki. Rayleigh looked at the axe Rita in Luffy's hand in shock. From the initial collision, Rayleigh found that none of Luffy's attacks had touched his long sword. Advertisement. At first, I was shocked to think that Luffy had mastered the technique of Conqueror's Haki, but after a few attacks, I found that Luffy's attack did not have the spiritual impact of Conqueror's Haki. Do you want to be bullied? Luffy looked at Rayleigh under him and laughed, I still can't. Speaking of injecting even hotter magic power into the axe began to emit a golden light representing the hot sun. Boom. Once again, Rayleigh was overturned by Luffy's terrifying power, and Rayleigh was already panting a little at this time. Is it old? Rayleigh moved through the air and landed on top of a piece of wreckage using a moonwalk-like trick. Luffy looked at the surrounding sea, and the Marine who fell into the water had been rescued by other warships. Feeling the gradually decreasing power and the unbearable sea surface under his feet, Luffy put away the axe. Even with Chakra's water-treading skills, Ace Kano, who relies on violent output, is completely unable to display his true combat power in the sea. Coupled with my 100% skill of being caught empty-handed, randomly, I have to wrap my magic power on the magic axe to avoid triggering this skill. After all, the chance of Rayleigh receiving the white blade is very small. Imagine the unlucky Sengoku when performing martial arts, that chance is rare. Rayleigh looked at Luffy who put away the axe and stroked his beard. What? Don't you want to fight my old man? Or is your weakening strength reaching the limit? 1. Rayleigh has also sensed that Luffy's power is slowly declining. However, Luffy raised a finger with contempt on his face, and the terrifying magic power gathered above the finger. How Wong. The sea water around Luffy was evaporated in an instant, and countless water vapor wrapped Luffy hazy. There is only a huge sun that contains terrifying energy and is gradually growing. Finally, when the heat reaches ultimate, even the water vapor is evaporated by the temperature of the sun. A compressed fireball like a miniature sun appeared above Luffy's finger. The sun without mercy. Luffy looked at Rayleigh with the arrogance of the sin of arrogance like an ant. Victory is mine. Die. The fireball was thrown out by Luffy and hit Rayleigh. Rayleigh's complexion changed drastically and all the Haki were gathered on the sword. The emission and Conqueror's entanglement made the black knife like a magic blade. With a bang, the fireball collided with the long sword. The terrifying impact formed a spherical crater-like puddle on the sea surface. Luffy controls the magic and wrestles with Rayleigh's Haki. Suddenly Luffy stretched out his palm and grabbed Dong. Exploding arrogance. The terrifying fireball exploded like a bomb. Advertisement Chapter 227 Joey Bowie. I am. Advertisement. Exploding arrogance. The terrifying fireball exploded like a bomb. The terrifying heat exploded directly in Rayleigh's face with the impact of the explosion. After a loud noise, countless seawater poured into the middle sea area. The Marines were horrified as they looked at the sea where a big hole had been burned in the distance. Gradually the waves returned to calm, and a small black spot undulated on the surface of the sea. "Do you died?" The Marines looked at the black figure and whispered. Luffy walked up to Rayleigh like a god of war on the sea water. At this time, Rayleigh looked extremely miserable, his body was burnt, and the top-level armament hockey couldn't resist the burning like the sun. Rayleigh held a piece of driftwood and looked up at Luffy. "What a scary newcomer. It seems that our old era has passed. The red hair once told me that he once met a person who said the same thing as the captain. Quote. I'm afraid he didn't expect that the person he said he liked would become Marine." Rayleigh didn't beg Luffy for mercy at all because of the threat of death. Kong Shi looked at Luffy's majestic figure in relief. Perhaps it's still too early. The era that the captain is waiting for has not yet come. Rayleigh was panting heavily, the burns on his body made it difficult for him to breathe. "Joey Bowie." Luffy looked at Rayleigh indifferently. Originally, Luffy didn't have any bad feelings towards Rayleigh, but this time Rayleigh's behavior made Luffy feel extremely unhappy. This is why Luffy hates pirates, even pirates like the Roger Pirates, which are more similar to adventure groups, pay more attention to personal friendship and do not consider what impact their actions will have on the world. And this time Rayleigh obviously appeared because Ace, as the deputy captain of Roger's pirate group, his affection for Roger was enough to make him risk his life, although he didn't think he would die here when he came. The reason Roger was not prevented from dying at the beginning was because Roger's lifespan had already reached its daily limit. Even if Ku Rox forcibly extended his life with his medical skills, he could barely extend his life for 4 years. Advertisement. And he has conquered the Grand Line in more than 3 years, and before he died, he decided to use his life to disturb the world ruled by celestial dragons, because he did not have extra time to make the future he saw in Rafrud realize, just want to push the world forward in this extreme way. Facing Roger, who was already running out of time, Rayleigh at the time did not prevent Roger from dying, but it did not mean that he wanted Roger to die, so he was very happy when Ace appeared in front of him. Rayleigh originally planned to prevent Ace from participating in the Summit War according to the words Luffy asked Buggy to bring to him, but the appearance of Whitebeard interrupted his plan. At Ace's invitation, Rayleigh decided to rescue the hostages so that the Whitebeard pirates had the option to retreat at any time, so that the chances of surviving with Ace's strength could be increased accordingly. However, even though he had made sufficient psychological preparations, he still underestimated Luffy's strength. That terrifying attack like the sun reminded him of the legendary Joey Boy, the sun god Nika Fruit ability. The identity of Joey Bowie, who had already denied Luffy. After all, Nika Fruit has not been controlled by the world government, and it seems to have a soul to avoid the world government. However, at this moment Luffy actually said Joey Boye's name directly. "How do you know that name?" Rayleigh's face once again showed an unbelievable look. It stands to reason that except for the Roger Pirates, only the top management of Celestial Dragons may know the blank 100-year history. "I can tell you responsibly, I am Joey Poe." Luffy squinted at Rayleigh. "Impossible." Rayleigh retorted immediately, "It is impossible for Joey Boye to surrender to the world government." "That's true," Luffy nodded, "but I don't have to explain it to you." Rayleigh BEDG laughed loudly. "Come on, kill me. You have such strength, I believe you will not let Ace die on the battlefield." "It's not certain," Luffy said blankly. "I've arranged enough ways for Ace to survive. If he's still obsessed with it, it's no wonder I'm going to blame him." Rayleigh was a little stunned after hearing this. Luffy looked at Rayleigh's face without the slightest fear, and couldn't help but feel a sense of admiration in his heart. No matter the world of pirates is good or bad, the characters who play a certain role have their own beliefs in their hearts, no matter good or bad. At this time, the warship carrying the Ghost Spider slowly arrived not far from the two of them. Advertisement. Luffy ignored them lazily, turned to the seriously injured Rayleigh and said, "This is the first and last time, since you have already retired, don't use your old life to come out as a demon, let's go back to naval headquarters." Luffy turned his head and a huge conqueror's hockey was directly on top of them. "I said it. Go back to naval headquarters." Hearing that Luffy had spared Rayleigh for himself, Hancock was moved and threw himself into Luffy's arms. Afterwards, all the marine fleets sailed away slowly, leaving only the sporadic wreckage of two warships, which proved that a terrible battle just happened. Ghost Spider, Doberman and other Vice Admirals complimented Luffy with flattering faces. "Congratulations Luffy Vice Admiral. This is a great contribution. It is said that the Vice Captain of One Piece was defeated by you. It really is the tiger who has no dog grandson." Ah. The expressions of the Marine Vice Admirals on the warship changed. "What are you talking about, Luffy Vice Admiral? You want to let him go? This is a great achievement." Seeing this, the 5 Vice Admirals immediately felt chills. They were not afraid of death, but they were afraid that they would not die in the battle against the pirates. It would be a shame for them if Luffy gave them the title of traitor after their death. "That's right, letting him go may cause much harm." Luffy turned to look at Rayleigh again. "This time it's because you helped the 3 Hancock sisters return to Amazon Lily. If you still choose to fight against me next time, I will increase my R. I will capture Rayleigh right now." I believe that with this achievement, the next admiral must be you. Speaking of which, Luffy jumped directly onto the perfume snake where Hancock was waiting anxiously. Roger, the era we have created may be coming to an end. Monkey D. Luffy, how many secrets do you have left? Rayleigh struggled to climb up a large plank, panting heavily, looking at the blue sky and muttering. A few people praised Luffy as if he was invincible. Several vice admirals looked at Luffy and urged them anxiously. Yeah, you're a double-edged hero of Vice Admiral Garp Marine. I advise you, you'd better not get involved in this war. This time, none of the Whitebeard pirates can escape from Marineford alive. I said, it's useless for Uranus Lousy to come. Advertisement Chapter 228 Arrival at Marineford, Selfless Luffy. Advertisement. With only 10 hours left until the public execution. On the harbor of Marineford, a warship docked on the shore. Under the cover of night, countless Marine family members in Marineford dragged their families towards the warship dedicated to asylum. Everyone calm down and get on board. Everyone can ride the evacuation boat. Please rest assured. Under the orderly guidance of Marine, everyone walked towards the refuge warship. But also at this time, the figures of two ships sailed out on the sea level. Marine on the shore suddenly panicked. Pirate! A pirate ship has appeared. A sound of warning sounded, and the crowd who took refuge below panicked. Shut up, you idiot, that is the pirate ship of 7 warlords of the Sea Empress Boa Hancock, he is here to support us. There is a warship following behind, it is the warship escorting the executioners. Luffy Vice Admiral is back. The perfume snake and the warship slowly approached the shore. Garp picked his nostrils and strode slowly leading a group of Marines from the distant street. Why did I come here to meet this stinky boy? Obviously I am his grandfather. Garp thought about hours ago. Sengoku once again received a report from the ghost spiders, or a small report. Garp. Look at your grandson. He let Rayleigh go. Obviously it can better expand the influence of this public execution. Garp cast a disdainful look at his duplicity old buddy. You can pull it down. The Roger pirates were disbanded and not caught. Do you want Marine to fight against the Whitebeard pirates and the Roger pirates at the same time? Quote. Even if he comes back, you will release him, right? Garp pointed out Sengoku's little thought. Sengoku choked on the spot. You said how could Luffy beat Rayleigh? It's too strange. Sengoku was still in a cold sweat, even he didn't expect Rayleigh to take advantage of Enies Lobby's door of justice come join this war. Originally thought that sending 5 vice admirals was enough attention, but if it wasn't for Luffy this time, maybe Marine would suffer a lot. Advertisement. Although Sengoku still considers the alternative plan of arranging a group of death row prisoners to replace them in case these guys are taken away, this can only deceive ordinary civilians, and those big forces will undoubtedly laugh at Marine's incompetence. Who would have thought that Luffy would single-handedly beat Pluton Rayleigh, a legendary character, and almost killed him? Even if his strength declined due to aging, he would still be able to obtain the same nickname as Pluton, one of the 3 ancient weapons. Rayleigh is not something ordinary people can handle. Even Admiral wasn't sure about winning the all-out Rayleigh. Garp laughed indifferently. Wow, ha ha ha, you are indeed my grandson. Sengoku's ears are almost numb after hearing this sentence. Since it is your grandson, then you are responsible for welcoming him. Garp. Huh, you're avenging yourself. Sengoku triumphantly snatched the senbei from Garp's hand and drank the new tea. Garp had no choice but to go to the port cursing and wait for the escort of the executed prisoners. And the time has come to the present. It was 2 o'clock in the morning, and since Luffy knocked down the moon, the sky at night became much darker. Influenced by the Ace Kano template, Luffy is as thin as a dry wood, as if the wind would blow it down. I saw him walking down from the perfume snake depressedly and looking at the cheap grandpa walking towards him. Ah, Luffy, why are you like this? Did you use some life-draining move against Rayleigh? Garp was stunned to see the thin Luffy. The ghost spider and others who came down from the warship at the side were also shocked when they saw Luffy who was so different. It took life to defeat Rayleigh. Maybe Luffy Vice Admiral didn't have the strength to fight Rayleigh at the time, so whoever tricked him into leaving. It seems that Luffy Vice Admiral is to prevent Rayleigh's counterattack. After all, with our strength, we will definitely not be able to beat the legendary Pluton. We owe Luffy Vice Admiral our lives. Ghost Spider and the others looked at Luffy with moved faces, and Luffy instantly became sacred and tall in their eyes. Luffy's mouth twitched wordlessly as he heard their whispers. Lousy, the quilt cover is weak. Do you understand? Advertisement. But he wouldn't be stupid enough to explain these things. However, Hancock's intimate approach made Garp's eyes change instantly. He looked at Luffy and the Empress beside him wretchedly, showing the original expression on his face. Although the wine is good, don't be greedy, Garp winked and smiled at Luffy. Asking for flowers. Garp giggles and looks at Luffy and Hancock. Luffy looked at this unscrupulous old man with a dazed face. When did this guy become so sulky? Immediately, Garp believed his conjecture even more, and said with a happy smile, okay. Luffy looked at the confident Garp speechlessly and couldn't help complaining. Is this something to be happy about? After all, things like public opinion are controlled by the ruler's intentions. Otherwise, he would not have brought Ace out of the island and raised him secretly for so many years, until Ace went out to sea and was discovered by Sengoku. Although he was right, how could Luffy be hollowed out once or twice? Just kidding. Go. Didn't you see the prisoner on the marine warship? What are you doing here? Luffy waved his hand impatiently, and led Hancock, Robin and others to the special guest room to rest. The execution time was still early. In Luffy's impression, Whitebeard and others took advantage of the morning fog to invade Marineford in the last 5 hours. Then she blurted out, "Grandpa." Garp laughed when he heard the words. "There is nothing to worry about, he is Whitebeard, if he still relies on this method, then Ace will not follow him wholeheartedly." Hancock blushed and thought, "This is Luffy's grandpa, this is Luffy's grandpa." Luffy rolled his eyes wildly. "Are you doing nothing? Aren't you afraid that Whitebeard will suddenly pop up and take these civilians hostage?" When he met Roger entrusted Ace to him, and when Ace was executed, the memories and crying words are enough to show that Garp has a meticulous mind behind his seemingly absurd behavior. But Garp's wretched expression at this moment made Luffy want to punch him in the face. Obviously this guy didn't think of any good at all. A son of the One Piece who has reformed and returned to righteousness is much more useful than a dead son of the One Piece. However, he didn't want to think that Garp could push Roger to a desperate situation several times. Could it be done by relying on strength alone? He will not stress over and over again when training Ace and Luffy that he must become a powerful sailor, because only when Ace becomes a Marine, Garp has enough reasons to protect him. Relying on the title of Marine Hero is enough to keep a son of One Piece who has reformed from evil. Advertisement Chapter 229 Kizaru, Sakazuki, my role model. Advertisement. Excuse me. Luffy walked into a room with 2 legs. Yo, long time no see, Hawkeye. Luffy greeted Hawkeye with a smile. He, I didn't expect that it was Luffy Vice Admiral who personally invited us to the battlefield. It's really an honor. Moria's originally vicious face suddenly became seductive. Shexi, you seem to be in a bad state. Doflamingo looked at the emaciated Luffy at this time and taunted with a strange smile. Huh, Luffy glanced at Doflamingo. Do you want me to show you what a father's love is? I don't need you, honey. Let me turn this guy to stone. Hancock came out from behind Luffy at this moment and said viciously. Empress. Doflamingo was stunned, and put down his pinched fingers. Originally, he wanted to take advantage of Luffy's weakness to see if he could kill him, but he didn't expect Hancock to stand by Luffy's side. He really thought he was a Marine. At this time, the eagle eyes looked at Luffy with burning eyes. I am here to find you specially for 923, this time. Luffy looked at Hawkeye speechlessly. What the hell at the time, he was out of his wits and had nothing to do with pretending in front of him. Hawkeye, who was originally focused on cultivating apprentices to kill him, was thinking about himself every day. It's useless, I won't use my sword again. Luffy had no choice but to pretend to be an outsider and said. Don't worry, I won't attack you until I reach the last level of comprehension. Hawkeye said it as a matter of course. Luffy couldn't stop complaining to Chunin. When you realize the last level, you will probably be stupid. Luffy looked around, but he didn't see Blackbeard. Obviously, he ran to impel down under the name of Shichibukai. Let's go, the largest war in the past 800 years has begun. Congratulations, you are honored to witness the birth of a new era. After Luffy finished speaking, he walked towards the crowd, and the others stood up and quickly followed. Doflamingo let out a naughty laugh. It seems that the appearance of Rayleigh made Marine nervous, and there are still 8 hours before the execution. It's so early for us to prepare in advance. And in the marshal's office on the other side, Aokiji was lying in a corner sleeping soundly. Sengoku on the side showed blue veins on his forehead. Aokiji. Take me seriously, B********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************* blindfold. Ah. Is it time for lunch? Sengoku. Plus Lu. What lunch? Execution. Whole Garp. Look at the ones following you. Ah, really? Wahahaha. My grandson is so good ha. Garp laughed nonchalantly. Well, I got it. Don't be so rigid. Aokiji spread his hands, stood up and walked towards the door. Advertisement. Kizaru on the side took a sip of tea leisurely. It's really hard to wake up people in the early morning. Shut up, Pelusalino. Rayleigh's appearance this time may represent the Roger pirates joining the battle again. Do you know what that means? Sengoku yelled at Kizaru angrily. Wahaha, my grandson said that the Roger pirates will definitely not appear, and I believe this too. Garp on the side said swearingly. Humph, you let Rayleigh go. This kind of conniving evil person should be executed. Suddenly, a disgusted voice sounded from the side. It was Akainu who was smoking a cigar. Originally, Akainu admired this rookie who killed all Marines during Luffy's journey, because his point of view was that evil must be swept away. However, Luffy eradicated lawless places in the Sabaody archipelago and beat celestial dragons, which made him dissatisfied with this guy who didn't follow the rules. But considering that what Luffy cleared was the place he wanted to destroy, he didn't go into it too much. As a result, I just heard that Luffy had let go of the vice captain of the Roger pirates, the source of all evil, which made Akainu directly disgusted with Luffy. As expected, he is the son of a criminal. Akainu mocked disdainfully. For a while, the other four people in the marshal's office looked at Akainu. Displeasure flashed in Sengoku's eyes, and disgust flashed in Aokiji's eyes even more. In his opinion, Akainu's character is not suitable to be a marine at all. Since he bombarded the refuge ship in Ohara, Aokiji has questioned Marine's justice. So what he has been adhering to is lazy justice. And Kizaru looked at Akainu with a look of admiration. My role model, how did this EQ get mixed up in Marine Admiral? Can't you see that the three of them are all in the same group? As long as you know that Garp's son is a dragon, Sengoku doesn't mention it, but you dare to mention it. I really think Garp can't kill you. But before the battle is imminent, Kizaru put down his teacup slowly. Let's go, don't you still have to go to the execution platform to wait for orders? Aokiji heard the words and continued to walk towards the door. Akainu looked at the two with disdain and snorted coldly, then got up and walked out of the door. When the three walked away, Garp picked his nose and asked Sengoku, can I kill Sakazuki? Sengoku, cannot. At this time, South Blue. Only 7 hours left. Is Whitebeard already here? Who knows, but will it really happen? Even Whitebeard is old enough. Is that so? Of course. After all, he is a survivor before the era of great pirates, so he should be very old. Advertisement. It's been years since I've seen his name on the big news. What are you talking about? An old woman holding a newspaper frowned and said, it is precisely because of the difficulty that the Marine headquarters will gather elites from all walks of life to fight with all their troops, and Whitebeard will appear in all likelihood. Then, what would happen if he really appeared? A young man with very little experience asked nervously. Who knows? The old woman chuckled, I don't know about such things. East Blue. He must have been a pirate from long ago. Exactly. How could the Marine headquarters lose? No matter what kind of pirate it is impossible to attack Marineford. It's not certain, said Jabba, the one-piece cadre with a tattoo on his head, who was smoking a cigarette. A pirate named Golden Lion Shiki invaded Marineford more than 20 years ago, and the entire Marine headquarters was almost destroyed. If it wasn't for, hee. Maybe this time it will only be worse than worse. The pirate drank a glass of rum with trembling hands. Old, hee. The pirate laughed, he's not old at all, just a year ago, we just saw that man sitting there for a moment. A group of children in front danced and sang the catchphrase, Pirate Whitebeard, scarier than Ghost. At that moment, we didn't even have the idea of running away for our lives. North Blue Winter Island. A nun knelt down by the sea and prayed to heaven. God, where is the world going? Isn't this nonsense? A man laughed, even a child knows something. No, 5.9, right. Don't be like this, boss, you can just sell our wine, if you freeze to death. The two young men begged, it's as if we have to go to the execution platform, what's the matter? Gudong, grand line, but no matter who wins or loses, there will probably be heavy casualties. Huh, Jabba took a breath, it would be best if he doesn't show up, and it would be great if he can be executed smoothly. A pirate rests his legs on a table. Slap, crack, the tavern owner shut the door to death. West Blue. Hey, hello, wine, here comes the wine, boss. Two young people knocked on the door of a bar and shouted. Who wants to do business on such a day? The bar owner said angrily, I don't know how big a war is going to break out now. Get out. If the world is not destroyed tomorrow, I will open the door then. Quote. Is Whitebeard really that scary? Advertisement Chapter 230 Whitebeard strikes, Summit War starts. Advertisement. On the Sabaody Archipelago, it's still bright tomorrow. On the Sabaody Archipelago, there are Marine family members who originally lived in the large town of Marineford. Large screens are erected under the red trees of the Sabaody Archipelago. The progress of the public execution of the captains was monitored in real time. Reporters and photographers gathered from all over the world are ready to deliver the news to the world as soon as possible. As expected of the full-strength formation of the Marine headquarters, a reporter holding a camera exclaimed. Whitebeard should understand this too. Another reporter took a notebook to write and draw, and a huge relay phone bug next to him transferred the footage recorded here to all over the world. Even so, will he still show up? Marineford Square. Dozens of warships are docked at the port and are waiting. 8 Titan vice admirals stand in front of the port one by one. The Marine on the ship hurriedly carried the weapons and ammunition needed for the war. More than 100,000 Marine elites gathered in the entire square. It's not your average Luffy's run-of-the-mill chicken. It is an elite unit trained by the headquarters with at least 4 styles among the 100,000 Grandmaster Marine 6 styles. There are even a lot of Grandmaster Marine 6 types. The number of 14 is impossible to achieve in any 4 Emperors Pirate Alliance. That's why Kaido has always kept Doflamingo's man-made devil fruit in mind. The bay is covered with countless heavy artillery, and from the port, it can be seen that Mihawk, Moria and Doflamingo of the 7 warlords of the sea are guarding the forefront of the army. Behind it is Hancock and the female fighters of the 9 snake pirates led by her long-range ADCs. At this time, the 3 Admiral Akainu, Kizaru, and Aokiji also slowly walked to the 3 seats directly below the execution platform. All of a sudden, 100,000 Marines cheered loudly, and the strong momentum seemed to overthrow Marineford. HMPH, haha, looking at the spectacular scene in front of him, Doflamingo suddenly smiled at Hawkeye and the others beside him like a cramp. Now the guy who can be called at the top in the sea is about to end. Who will be the king of the sea after this? The remaining 4 emperors, or live the wisest Shichibukai? Or the little devils known as the evil generation? Everyone looked at him one after another. No, not at all. Doflamingo said with a gloomy smile, a righteous army. Marines are the kings of the sea. Even the revolutionary army representing the will of the people cannot compete with Marines on this sea. Advertisement. The D family that has been hiding in the depths of history. Doflamingo grinned, that's just a little mouse that was forced by the celestial dragons to hide everywhere. Marine is the weapon of celestial dragons. Wait until after this war. Don Quixote Doflamingo, it's time to return to the top. Ahahaha. Hawkeye next to him looked at Doflamingo like a fool, not understanding what he meant by peak. At this time, the prison gate under the execution platform slowly opened. Luffy yawned and led many captains of the Whitebeard pirates to appear in the video phone bug. That is, the reporters of Sabaody Archipelago looked at Luffy excitedly. The source of this war, Monkey D. Luffy Vice Admiral. I heard that Blackbeard's attack on Whitebeard's pirates was Luffy Vice Admiral's suggestion. Look, all 20 captains of the Whitebeard convoy are out. Cyborg Veden, Mad Slippy, Giraffe Guy here. There's also the Great Eddie Spider Squad. Are they the spark that could spark the Winter World War? Indeed, anyone who arrests 20 captains of the large fleet at once will explode if they are provoked like this. Let alone the most protective Yuzi in Galilee. 20 captains were driven to the execution platform by Luffy and lined up one by one. Khalifa behind him directly placed a chair next to the execution platform, and Luffy sat down unceremoniously. It was approaching morning, and Luffy, who was originally skinny, had become strong and strong. The face of Akainu, who was pretending in the audience, turned dark. He raised his head and shouted at Luffy, "Hey, what are you doing? As a Marine Vice Admiral, you still don't go to the front line to support." "Ah, I'm in the way, lousy as sleepy, why don't you take a break?" Luffy said to Akainu contemptuously. Akainu was furious when he heard the words, his fists turned into magma, wanting to teach this guy who didn't obey the arrangement a lesson. However, at this time Garp and Sengoku walked up to the execution platform and stood on both sides of the executed prisoner. Advertisement. This made the angry Akainu feel as if a basin of cold water had been poured on him. He snorted coldly. Coward. Then he sat on the middle chair again. Kizaru on the side looked at Akainu like a clown. This idiot is really made of brains and muscles. If it weren't for the death protection from the world government, no matter how strong he is, Sengoku would never let this idiot sit on the Admiral's position. Luffy glanced at Akainu coldly. When Roger surrendered himself to prison, the purge of all pregnant women initiated by the world government was also completed under the leadership of Akainu. In order to sever the so-called evil blood, the world government, in the name of absolute justice, searched all the pregnant women on the islands that Roger passed by within a year, adhering to the attitude that they would rather kill by mistake than let them go. This so-called just activity lasted for 10 months, and tens of thousands of pregnant women and the innocent babies in their womb died unexpectedly. This is a stain that cannot be erased as a Marine. From Luffy's point of view, it is pure weakness to do such insane things just to worry about the blood of the so-called One Piece. For this one thing alone, Luffy would never admit to Akainu's disgusting absolute justice. At this time, the sky lit up with a ray of morning light, and the rising temperature made thick fog slowly rise above the sea. Marine, who was in charge of monitoring, observed carefully with a telescope, and suddenly, dark shadows of ships appeared slowly in the morning mist. Coming. The lookout shouted, "Everyone, prepare for battle." A tense atmosphere pervaded the entire Marineford for a while, and cannons pointed their muzzles at the sea. Pirate ships of various shapes appear from the mist like ghosts. Sengoku glanced at Luffy next to him. Is it really coming from the bottom of the sea? Sengoku has been keeping an eye on the bottom of the ocean ever since Luffy asked Garp to bring him information about the Fishmen Island, so this time Sengoku isn't as surprised by the presence of the Whitebeard pirates as in the original timeline. It's the big fleet of the pirates. Find out where Whitebeard is. However, the Marines counted and counted only the large ship group under the Whitebeard pirates, and did not find the location of the Whitebeard pirates' ships. Fire it up, Luffy said to Sengoku with raised eyebrows. You also know that Whitebeard isn't here. Sengoku shook his head. Just do it. What if Whitebeard goes back to support those fleets? Luffy spread his hands and said no more. And the 43 pirate ships quickly approached the Marineford port. At this time, in the Crescent Bay, bubbles suddenly appeared on the calm sea surface. The three Admiral, Sengoku, and Garp all raised their heads. Coming. With a bang, the coated Moby DK followed the three auxiliary ships and suddenly rose from the inside. Advertisement Chapter 231 Ace, your brother is in debt. Advertisement. Whitebeard, who is 6.6 meters tall, walks step by step from the steps to the middle of the deck of the Moby DK, leaning on a huge Kong Yunchi. Kong Yunchi smashed the steps with each other like a bell, hitting everyone's hearts. Hoo la la la. Whitebeard looked at Sengoku on the execution platform. Have we not seen each other for decades? Sengoku. Sengoku looked at Whitebeard on Moby DK's bow with a serious face. Whitebeard. My dear sons, are you all right? Whitebeard didn't panic in the slightest when facing Marine siege, but a strong sense of oppression made many Marines break out in cold sweat. Luffy watched as the battle blood in the sin of arrogance began to squirm in Whitebeard, who was full of aura. Due to the butterfly effect caused by Luffy, Marines started the layout earlier than expected, and the Whitebeard pirates also appeared several hours earlier than the original time. Looking at the many captains on the execution platform, Ace's face below was a bit ugly. Rayleigh actually missed. You must know that during the time when Sabaody was under control, he had a deep understanding of Rayleigh's terrifying strength. With Luffy's strength, it's easy to catch, but the presence of so many captains at this time can only prove one thing, that is, Rayleigh failed. Then everyone's retreat is cut off. After these captains are rescued or executed, the Whitebeard pirates can only fight Marine to the end. And Whitebeard is also aware of this. He looked at Luffy who was sitting comfortably on the execution platform with an inexplicable look in his eyes. Hoo la la la, brat. Are you Ace's younger brother? You are awesome. Hearing Whitebeard's words, ordinary Marines and off-site reporters were instantly upset. What? Luffy Vice Admiral is Ace's younger brother. As the ace, he's talking about the captain of the second squad, Fire Fist, Ace. Isn't Luffy Vice Admiral the grandson of Vice Admiral Garp? So Ace is also the grandson of Vice Admiral Garp. For a while, this heavy news was quickly broadcast to the whole world by the reporters of Sabaody Archipelago's real-time report along with the live broadcast. Luffy looked at the uproar marine below, crossing his legs on the sofa and said arrogantly, "Ah, this time I'm here to take back my stupid big brother who was fooled by you." As soon as the words came out, the captains below looked at such an arrogant Luffy and were instantly full of anger. Losing Ace has been saying good things for you, is this your attitude? As a younger brother, you don't even let your big brother go, are you still human? We, the Whitebeard pirates, have nothing against you, why are you targeting us like this? Advertisement. Even Ace couldn't help shouting, "Luffy, you've gone too far this time. Excessive." Luffy looked at Ace with a strange face. "Ace, you are pirates, and first a marine. Is it too much for marine to catch pirates? Don't be so naive, Ace, this world is cruel, no one has been playing house games with you, I know that because of your father, you have been trying to find the so-called meaning of existence. Haven't you seen the cruelty of this world after sailing on the sea for so many years? Don't you understand the harm that pirates have brought to the world? If you don't even realize this, it can only mean that you have been living in Whitebeard for you, brought that false minister of peace. Your so-called loving family is limited to you. Wake up, Ace, as an old man in marine who has raised you for more than 10 years, it is not as good as Whitebeard calling you a son. Besides, aren't you of a different generation? You are called Daddy Whitebeard and Grandpa Garp, so Whitebeard is going to be called Daddy Garp." Luffy teased Ace teasingly. Garp on the side suddenly laughed. "That's right. Whitebeard, hurry up and call Dad to listen. Why didn't I think of it?" Many Marines laughed, and the tense atmosphere was immediately swept away by Luffy's joke. "Whitebeard's blue veins on the bottom are exposed. Little devil, the mouth skills are really good, I don't know how the hand skills are. Let me see. I saw Whitebeard cut Kong Yun to the Moby DK. Ah, your boat made you poke a hole." Luffy suddenly pointed at Kong Yunchi and reminded loudly. "Whitebeard." The captains clenched their fists tightly, with blue veins on their foreheads, and said to Ace expressionlessly, "Ace, your brother is so sorry." "Ace." Whitebeard clenched his fists and slammed into the air on both sides. Cracks suddenly appeared in the space like shattered glass. The Marines looked at Whitebeard in shock. What happened? There is a crack in the atmosphere. At this time, everyone clearly felt the violent shaking. In the next second, the sea water around Marineford was still surging, and soon a monstrous huge wave rushed towards Marineford from a distance. Advertisement! Exclamation mark! Exclamation mark! What happened to that explosion? How could a tsunami happen? Is that what Whitebeard is capable of? Seeing the scene like a natural disaster, the Marines were horrified. Whitebeard and the captain looked proudly at the panicked Marines. "Daddy is the strongest man in the world. You Marines dare to attack our Whitebeard pirates, you are looking for death. Everyone in this sea knows what will happen to those who dare to touch our Whitebeard pirates. We will never spare anyone who hurts our companions. Be prepared." Naval Headquarters. Oh wow. Aokiji lazily said. It really attracted a group of incredible guys. Akainu snorted coldly. "What are you talking about now? It's so scary." Kizaru, Wang Dezhao, sighed with emotion from the bottom of his heart. At this time, Moria was full of excitement. "We have gathered 3 admirals, Shichibukai and 100,000 elites here. This time I will be able to collect enough shadows and corpses to strengthen my zombie army." Doflamingo licked his lips. As this Whitebeard. Exciting. Then he turned his head to Hawkeye and said, "Are you going to sit on the wall again? Anyway, are you here to pass the time?" At this time, huge waves rushed over from both sides of Marineford, and it was about to submerge the entire Marineford. And at this moment, when Sengoku gestured to Aokiji among the 3 admirals got up calmly and stretched out 2 thin ice streaks directly into the waves on both sides. Ice Age. In an instant, the entire Marineford completely shrouded the Whitebeard pirates in Crescent Bay like a cage. Advertisement Chapter 232 The Great War broke out, and the Straw Hats participated in the battle. Open black lens bracket. Ask for a monthly ticket. Close black lens bracket. Advertisement. The war is about to begin. The first strike is New World's 47 pirate fleet led by Whitebeard. We are fighting against the 2 major forces of the world government. Too big. I feel that Shichibukai is so weak, except for the Empress's 9 snake pirates, only one person came. That group of Shichibukai was robbing under the banner of world government. If I want to say that this kind of organization should have been cancelled. Keep your voice down. Let me tell you, the world government is the heart of Cipher Pol with the CP agency, they arrested you." The reporters stopped discussing and began to carefully record the battle here. Even the news agency is not enough to reprint the live broadcast of the whole world, and can only select some photos with the text to send live broadcasts around the world. At this moment in Marineford, looking at the frozen sea, Whitebeard frowned. "Aokiji, you little brat." The Marines looked at the iceberg covering the sky and breathed a sigh of relief. "We're saved." Octopole Spear. Aokiji shouted loudly, and several ice crystal spears appeared around him and shot at Whitebeard. Whitebeard slapped easily, the air vibrated, and the ice spear in midair shattered along with Aokiji's head. Ah! Aokiji fell straight from midair. "Aokiji Admiral!" Marines exclaimed anxiously. However, everyone does not know that this is a script that was rehearsed with Sengoku in advance. The moment 900 Aokiji fell into the sea, the entire sea surface of Crescent Bay was instantly covered by extremely thick ice. The fleet of the Whitebeard pirates was also completely frozen on the sea surface. Whitebeard frowned when he saw this. He looked at Sengoku. Is this all your plan? The resourceful general, Sengoku of Buddha. Sengoku, on the other hand, stood on the execution platform and looked at Whitebeard on the ice. Where the eyes of the two sides met, there seemed to be fierce sparks colliding. The marine at the front received the order, bombard. Destroy the Moby DK. The captains of the Whitebeard pirates were not to be outdone. Cough. Come on. The ice is a good place to stay. Foil Beasta waved his hand. Let them see how powerful we are. Advertisement. Immediately led the younger brother rushed towards the port. There was constant shelling, but for this group of big pirates in New World, the shelling could only slow down their speed. Soon, the school-level officers on the marine side, led by several vice-admirals, jumped onto the ice and began hand-to-hand combat. After all, the pirate world war is still dominated by cold weapons, and the strongest Pluton can only destroy an island with one blow, which is nothing in the eyes of some demon fruit power bed or emperor-level powerhouses. It's just that he represents the technological pinnacle of pirate world. At this time, several familiar figures in marine were looking at the battlefield in front of them with shock on their faces. Usopp stood in front of a fort and trembled. So strong. The group of people below are so strong. Immediately after he fired a cannonball, it miraculously exploded in the crowded place of the opponent, and then his eyes widened. Ah, scary, wahahaha, Captain Usopp is indeed the most powerful. Marine, who was shooting together, cast admiring glances, as expected of the sniper of Luffy Vice Admiral. Sanji glanced at the 9 snake pirates with hard eyes, lit a cigarette and shouted at the 9 snake pirates, ladies. Look at my handsome figure. Then he stepped on the moonwalk and rushed out towards the battlefield. Zoro on the side looked disgusted. This idiot. Immediately, he rushed down with a knife in his face excitedly. As a swordsman who aimed at Luffy, he was never afraid of any battle, and he was even more excited because he had more fights to sharpen his swordsmanship. Frankie stood on the Mary and was shocked to see the melee in the bay. Is this the World War? Supper. Marine, who was temporarily dispatched to the ship, was clearly led by him, followed by posing with Poss and shouting, supper. And behind them are Smoker, Tashigi and others. The pure white cloak of justice directly collided with the chaotic Marine. That's the captain of Whitebeard's 5th division, Foil Vesta. Zoro excitedly watched a man with a curvy beard holding 2 knives slash around among the elite Marines. Immediately excited, he rushed up with 3 knives. At the same time, he was also interested in Vista and Smoker's subordinate Tashigi, and the two rushed towards the captain of the 5th team. Seeing this, Smoker's face changed greatly. Come back. Isn't that your opponent? You two idiots can't beat it. Tashigi stopped hastily when he heard the words. Advertisement. However, Zoro, who is a battle madman, didn't listen to it, and rushed directly towards the Foil Vista. That idiot. Smoker's expression changed, and he was about to save him. Zoro spit out a mouthful of white air, and said in a low voice, Thunder's breath. One shape thunderbolt flash one knife flow Jahei lion singing song. There was a flash of lightning on the soles of his feet, his whole body accelerated suddenly, and he appeared in front of Foil Vista in an instant, and slashed at him. Huh. Vista was startled, and then moved his long sword horizontally to directly block Zoro's ghost. Little ghost, the speed is enough, but the strength is still far behind. I saw Vista's other knife slashing directly towards Zoro. Damn it, it's really strong. Zoro's face changed, and he was about to be cut by a long knife. A red foot kicked directly onto Vista's long sword from the side. Thunder's breath one shaped devil foot. Shoulder. With a bang, Foil Vista was kicked back a few steps. He looked at the two of them in surprise, and saw that their military ranks were only at the rank of colonel and major. It seems that there are still 2 new Marine stars. Beasta showed an interested expression on his face. If you kill the 2 of you, first wonder if Marine will feel distressed. Speaking of Vista's sword wrapped around Haki. Sanji and Zoro's expressions turned serious. It's Haki again. Although it is said that without Haki, you will definitely not be able to beat a strong player who can use Haki, but knowing how to use Haki is a proof that you have developed your body to a certain extent. Perhaps the gap between Haki's strength and weakness may be caused by talent, but being the captain of the Whitebeard team is definitely not useless. Just when the 2 of them were ready to fight, a series of figures suddenly stood in front of them. Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral headed by Crane Vice Admiral. This is not your battlefield. Choose your opponent before you fight, otherwise you will be determined to die. Vice Admiral, the Flying Squirrel, said seriously to the 2 people behind him. Sanji was unconvinced when he heard this and wanted to refute, but the powerful momentum of the Vice Admirals gathering together made it impossible for them to refute. Damn it, or is it too weak? Zoro shook the knife unwillingly. He remembered what Luffy had arranged for him before. He glanced at Hawkeye who was standing motionless on the high wall and rushed towards the little minions behind the captain without saying a word. Chapter 233 Ace. Don't explain, your undercover identity has been exposed. Advertisement. As I said before, with the talents of these little guys, it is considered to have mastered Haki. Facing Zoro, who has learned Breath of Thunder, he still has the fate of being beaten. At most he can resist being beaten better than the guys in the first half of the Grand Line. Sanji wanted to struggle again, but let Zoro drag him away. He knew that what the Vice Admiral said was right. With their current strength, they were basically no different from delivering food to a captain-level powerhouse. Maybe it will drag your teammates down. Why not bully those little Carla who are weaker than yourself? After all, this is war, not a duel, and there is no such thing as a duel between men. Seeing Zoro and others leaving, Doberman said to He Vice Admiral beside him, Grandma He, you should also step back. That is to say, leave it to us to clean up here, and it would be nice to go to the back and drink tea slowly. The gray-haired granny he said casually, don't be so handsome, you brats, even if I retreat to the end of the sea, there is no safe place. The Vice Admirals smiled when they heard the words. Although Vice Admiral is a Vice Admiral, he is still Marine's chief advisor. As an elite Marine at the same time as Garp and Sengoku, no one knows how strong she is. Anyway, when Doflamingo met Crane Vice Admiral, he was frightened and ran away. On the other side, 43 pirate groups have also arrived on the ice. This is the first time I've seen so many Vice Admirals, haha, even Buster Call is far from it. Of course, this is Dad after all. Come on, brothers, get the captain back. Most of the Whitebeard pirates rushed towards the bay frantically. Seeing this, Ace's blood was surging, and he immediately jumped up, fire fist. Huge fist flames shoot out towards the Marines below. The Marines' expressions changed upon seeing the huge flame. Possessing armament hockey means that the body's resistance has been improved, but it does not mean that they are immune to Logia's attack. If he was really hit by this fire fist, although he would not be killed, he would still suffer a lot of burns. Damn it, is this the fire fist ace of the captain of the second squad? Can you just say that he is the grandson of Garp? A Luffy Vice Admiral is exaggerated enough, and there is a 4 Emperor's cadre. Seeing that the huge fire fist is about to hit the Marine below. Suddenly, a light and fluttering voice came into the battlefield. You just wait for me. The huge fire fist suddenly rose into the sky and exploded in midair. Nani. Everyone looked at the front in amazement, and the figure of Luffy's burly man stood on the ice at some point. Advertisement. Everyone looked at the execution platform in horror. At this time, the chairs on the execution platform were empty. So fast. The expression of the Whitebeard pirates changed. This speed has already caught up with the speed of Aokiji before. Luffy, get out of the way. I don't want to fight you. Ace said as he fell off the Moby DK with his whole body on fire. I don't want to fight you either, but if you hurt Marine, the old man and I will be very distressed. Luffy smiled and said to Ace, otherwise, we won't make a move, how about going to the side to rest and have a cup of tea together? Everyone looked at Luffy without the slightest sense of tension speechlessly. This is a war about world peace. Can we be more serious? Ace's face became more and more ugly when he heard this. Although I knew that I would have a fight with you, I didn't expect it to be in this situation. Originally, before the two went to sea, they said that they wanted to compete for the One Piece King, but now Ace is convinced by Whitebeard and vows to push him to the throne of One Piece, and Luffy directly becomes Marine Vice Admiral. This made Ace's heart sink completely. Don't blame me, Luffy. Ace yelled, stretching out his fingers like pistols, aiming at Luffy with burning flames on his fingers. Musket. The suddenly compressed flames shot towards Luffy like bullets. At the same time, the reporters all pointed the camera bug at Luffy and Ace. Both are the grandsons of Vice Admiral Garp, who will win the battle between the two brothers. I think it's Fire Fist Ace. After all, when he became famous, Luffy Vice Admiral didn't even go to sea. No kidding, I think it must be Luffy Vice Admiral, the man who defeated the 7 warlords of the sea, Lockdar, and the world government traitor who will destroy the Enies lobby. Everyone eagerly watched the confrontation between the two Luffy brothers. Only Luffy remained motionless in the face of the incoming fireballs. The face of Ace on the opposite side changed. Damn it, is Luffy going to deliberately pretend to lose to me? Immediately, Ace was moved and shouted, Luffy, since we are already standing on the battlefield, don't hold back. Before he finished speaking, he suddenly found that the fireball he shot at Luffy turned around and shot towards a few little Carla who were watching the show. Little Carla MI was shot into a sieve by Ace's fireball before he could react. Immediately, the atmosphere at the scene was extremely awkward, and the battlefield fell into an eerie silence. Asking for flowers. Ace. Advertisement. Foil Vesta, captain of Division 5, asked Ace suspiciously. Ace stared blankly at his fingers and panicked, I don't know what's going on. On the other hand, Luffy showed an excited expression and shouted, Brother. How can you expose your identity as an undercover agent? Didn't you agree to give Whitebeard a shot? It doesn't matter if I get hurt. Ace on the opposite side looked confused. What are you talking about? Luffy. Didn't we just discuss how to approach Whitebeard and give him a fatal blow? Why did you shoot the fireball at those pirates? Luffy complained to Ace with a look of hatred, come on, shoot me. At this time, the reporters outside the venue were in an uproar with the Marines and pirates on the scene. Ace turned out to be an undercover agent. Everyone looked at Ace in disbelief, and then carefully remembered that this guy is Garp's grandson. It seems that this possibility is really impossible. Seeing everyone's increasingly strange expressions, Ace suddenly panicked. Luffy. Don't talk nonsense. Just hit me. If you do that, I won't be polite. Luffy raised his eyebrows at Ace with a smirk. Hey, brother, what are you talking about? You've been exposed. Even if you act again, they won't believe it. Seeing the increasingly suspicious eyes of his companions, Ace immediately stopped holding back. Luffy. You forced me to do this. Flame ring. Ace spun around violently. His whole body was submerged in the flames. A thick pillar of fire rose into the sky. Pillar of fire. Ace's voice sounded from the sky. Everyone looked at the huge flame solemnly. Sure enough, being the captain of Whitebeard's second team is not just for nothing. The development of this fruit ability is really terrifying. With Ace's shout, a long pillar of fire fell from the sky and rushed towards Luffy. The faces of the Marines changed drastically. Luffy, Vice Admiral, be careful. However, Luffy looked up at Ace with a mocking expression on his face. In the next second, the pillar of fire in midair slammed towards the pirate camp in the back and smashed hard. Nani? Everyone looked at Ace in shock. You are really an undercover agent. Only Luffy was already on the verge of internal injuries. Because this is exactly the skill he rewarded for restoring the third Wong Quan Red King Zhou Fangzhen. Fire control. The power held by the Red King can manipulate the violent flames. Chapter 234. We believe you are not an undercover agent. Put away your tricks. Advertisement. Fire control. The power held by the Red King can control the violent flames. As the only all-round energy skill of the nuclear bomb sword, the flame body that Wong Quanjian can control is the most terrifying to death. And because the drawn skill was a single skill, the fire control technique was directly stuck by the system bug, and it has become a level similar to the law of causality, which is similar to 100% empty-handed and empty-handed. To put it simply, as long as the volume of the flame does not exceed the energy contained in Wong Quan's sword, then it can only be easily ravaged by the fire control technique. At this time, Ace was dumbfounded. The Whitebeard pirates were also confused, and the reporters who were watching the live broadcast were even more confused. Then the Marines let out deafening cheers. Ace is awesome. Long live Ace, truly the grandson of Vice Admiral Garp. At the expense of life, undercover Whitebeard pirates for 3 years. 82, just to wait for a moment. The boss said, 3 years. Do you know how I lived these 3 years? The opposite of the Marines are the pirates of the Whitebeard pirates. They yelled at Ace in the air. Ace, I misread you. Father treats you like his own son. Did you forget when we had a banquet together? You turned out to be Marine's undercover dog, Sinai. At this time, Ace's face was full of pain. No. I don't. Don't shout nonsense. Then he frantically asked Luffy loudly, Luffy, is it your fault? You explain to them quickly. Luffy spread his hands innocently. What are you talking about, Oni-chan? I am a rubber fruit capable person, how can I control your flame? Ace suddenly felt depressed and wanted to vomit blood. I still don't believe it. Fire Dharma. Crossfire. Shinha Shiranui. Yang Yan. Advertisement. Then Ace launched a continuous attack on Luffy, and there was a violent explosion on the side of the Whitebeard pirates. Doflamingo on the port wall rubbed his chin and giggled. What are you laughing at? Moria on the side said gloomily, I was still thinking about making Fire Fist's corpse into my zombie army. Doflamingo glanced at the idiot speechlessly. Yeah, blah, blah, it's just that the scene in front of me is a little familiar. Isn't this the same as when he framed King Liku? It's just that I don't know how that Luffy managed to bounce all the flames back. At this time, Ace didn't know whether he was angry or tired and panted heavily. He stared viciously at Luffy, and behind him was a large group of little Carla Rices who had been battered by his flames. Luffy sighed secretly, as expected of New World's little Carla Mi, who just resists beating. Then Luffy persuaded Ace with a kind face. Oni-chan, look at them, they are not fools, stop acting, isn't this treating people like monkeys? Ace paused when he heard the words, he turned his head and looked behind him, and sure enough, everyone in the Whitebeard pirates was a little skeptical at first, but now they are even more resentful. Seeing this, Ace's face became as dark as the bottom of a pot. I saw that he was like an explosion, and circles of flames spread out under his feet, covering a small half of the battlefield. I still don't believe it. Great Flame Ring Emperor Yan. A gigantic fireball rises from Ace's feet. The Marines swallow deeply looking at this terrifying fireball. Is this the Fire Fist Ace? As expected of a boss who can go undercover to the captain of the second team. Master Ace, come on. All the Marines are cheering for Ace. Ace in midair wanted to vomit blood depressedly. Shut up. I'm not an undercover agent. The Marines nodded in unison and shouted, we know. Shoot us. Ace. BYML. At this time, the captains who were watching the play couldn't sit still anymore. Although they believed in Ace, they vaguely realized that it must be the devil fruit that caused Ace's situation. But this is Ace's unique skill. If it hits his own camp, it is not comparable to the previous small skills. Marco stood on the boat and shouted, Ace. Don't get excited. We are all good brothers. That's right. Be good. Put that fireball away. We don't need it. Diamond Josie also comforted quickly. Advertisement. We all believe in you. We don't need the ability of devil fruit. That is to say, we believe that you are not an undercover agent. Put away your tricks. At this time, Ace finally calmed down a bit. He looked at the fireball above his head, and took a deep breath. Phew, I almost fell into your trick. Although I don't know how you did it, but if it really hits this time, I won't be able to wash it off even if I jump into the sea. Ace looked at Luffy and said calmly. Then he was about to put away the fireball, but Luffy on the opposite side arched his nose, buckled his nose as if bored, and blew casually with his mouth. Ace felt the fireball above his head go out of control instantly, and hit the pirates behind him straight. Ace was stunned. Not good. Everyone hide. The pirate group behind them immediately scolded more cheerfully. FK. Ace. You are too much. I saw his armament hockey directly entwined on the western double swords, soaring into the air and slashing towards Luffy. Rondo. Immediately he yelled at the many pirates. Look at what you look like. What kind of abilities have you never seen in New World? How dare you doubt your brother? Ace. He is my son. The horror of Logia is undoubtedly revealed on the battlefield. Although the strong ones can rely on hockey to resist, you cannot destroy all the map guns in this range. The huge fireball smashed straight towards the Moby DK behind him. Ace's big move was just broken by Whitebeard's punch. The fireball in the air suddenly shattered. There was a muffled bang, and cracks filled the air. The sky full of rose petals fell from the sky and blocked Luffy's sight, while Vista hid among the flowers and chopped down towards Luffy. Boy, Whitebeard stared at Luffy who was standing there as if nothing happened. You messed up 5.8, didn't you? Air shock. Your uncle. And you said you are not an undercover agent. Foil Vista burst into anger when he saw his father being humiliated. Boy, you are courting death. Seeing that the fireball was about to smash into the pirate group. Luffy. Then Garp is your father. He is the one who can't see Whitebeard being humiliated the most. When Teach mocks Whitebeard, Vista needs someone to stop him from acting impulsively. 8883. Single quote closing curly bracket exclamation mark. Suddenly there was a burst of shouting. Enough. Chapter 235 Golden Lion Luffy. Suppress the audience. Advertisement. Boom. The sound of ice cracking came, and the ice mist scattered and buried Luffy. Luffy, Zoro and Sanji were shocked when they saw this. They both knew the terrifying power of the foil Vesta, and they joined forces just to try to beat it back without causing any injuries. At this moment, Vista looked magnified at first glance, and Luffy might be seriously injured if he came up like this. The reporters on the sidelines and the supernovas who sneaked back watched the battle nervously. Is it dead? Apu asked, staring at the live TV. Capone Beige smoked a cigar and sneered. That's the cadre of the Whitebeard Pirates, and the captain of the 5th Division. He is a great swordsman, how could he be alive? That's not sure. Beige is in charge, Luo said with a smile while holding a long knife. After all, he fought back and forth with the captain of the second team, Ace. Huh, isn't Ace an undercover agent? Yoroj asked strangely. The rest of the supernovas looked over speechlessly. Are you stupid? How could he be an undercover agent? It is obvious how the Straw Hat Luffy restrained his Mera fruit ability. Is that so? Yoroj laughed. I thought he was an undercover agent. All 14 people were speechless for a while looking at this fighting madman. 3 of today's supernovas have died in Luffy's hands. At least half of the people gathered at this time wished that Luffy would die quickly. The reporters looked at the screen nervously. Monkey D. Luffy is a supernova launched by Marine, and he has quite a large number of fans all over the world. If he dies, many girls in the world will be sad for a long time. At this time, the ice fog caused by the hockey impact gradually faded. Everyone stared wide-eyed at the battle. At this time, the sun's first ray of sunlight came down. 2 figures gradually emerged from the white mist. Foil Pista appeared one step ahead, and he looked at the white mist with horror in his eyes. The black knife in his hand was trembling uncontrollably, because he felt a terrifying force blocking his knife before, and this force is gradually increasing. Although I am a human being, I am also an existence above all races. An arrogant voice came out, and a finger stretched out from the white mist to point to the sun. Advertisement. Then Luffy's figure appeared, and the shirt under the cloak of justice was slowly torn by the soaring muscles, and the strong chest muscles and 8-pack abdominal muscles were directly exposed in front of everyone. I am the 7 deadly sins, the sin of arrogance. Lion's sin. Master Monkey D. Luffy. Luffy held up the axe Rita with one hand and blocked the foil Vesta's attack in front of him. Sins of pride morning state. Nani. How is it possible? He actually blocked the captain's moves with one hand. Look at his size. It's skyrocketing again. Lion's sin. What does it mean? Silly. Don't you know that Marine's Admiral class or Admiral alternate class is named after animals and colors? Akainu Sakazuki, Kizaru Pelusalino, Aokiji Kuzan. So I think Luffy Vice Admiral has become Admiral's candidate. And the representative is the King of Beasts, the lion partner. Yes, this is big news. The crime of the lion, what color is it? Look at the weapon he uses, the golden giant axe, it must be a golden lion. That's right, Golden Lion Monkey D. Luffy. This title is the same as that of the Golden Lion who fought against Marineford all by himself. At the beginning, Garp and Sengoku fought for 3 days and 3 nights to win him, which shows that Luffy Vice Admiral has the potential to be as good as Golden Lion Shiki. Big news. Big news. Hurry up. The reporters of Sabaody Archipelago immediately smelled the explosive news, rushed to take pictures, wrote articles and sent them to the headquarters of the news agency. For a while, the photo of Luffy Hockey resisting Vista with one hand spread all over the world. Vista looked at the pretended Luffy with disdain on his face. What a rant. A mere Vice Admiral, dare to say that he is at the top of all races. Even Kaido, who is called the strongest creature in the world, dare not say it's such big talk. You have gone too far with your arrogance. Speaking of which, Vista directly poured armament hockey into the double swords again, and a rose-red hockey surrounded the western double swords. It is the advanced use of armament hockey, emission. Cut. Vista shouted loudly, pressed down on Luffy again. The ice under his feet shattered under his strong force. Advertisement. Go, Captain. Come on, Vista. The pirates in the rear shouted their cheers to foil Vista. Hawkeye in the stands was full of disdain. With such strength, even his Wushwang sword intent can't force it out. And Luffy directly sat down on the battlefield, laughed and said to Ace, "It's not time for the trump card to be played, Ace. It would be nice for us to sit down and chat." Nani. Foil Vista's face changed drastically, and he suddenly felt an extremely terrifying force coming from his two knives. For a moment, all the pirates in front of Luffy were frightened by Luffy's courage and took 2 steps back. Hawkeye's words made the reporters excited again. "Write it down. Write it down." Hawkeye admitted that he lost to the Golden Lion Luffy in terms of swordsmanship. "Don't worry, he can't die, otherwise the game will be too boring." Luffy looked at Vista, who was like a ball, and said arrogantly, "Fortunately, if the strength of the magic axe hadn't been 100% suppressed by the empty hand and the white knife, lousy just split you in two." "Swordsman." Hawkeye sneered, "The man in front is the #1 swordsman in the world, surpassing me." Marco quickly flew to the place where Vista flew upside down and shouted, "Vista. Are you okay?" Doflamingo on the side looked at Hawkeye in bewilderment. Wushwang sword intent. Is he still a swordsman? Luffy easily carried the magic axe on his shoulder with one hand, as if he just slapped a little ant flying. Luffy below looked disdainfully at Vista, who was tired and sweating, and smiled contemptuously. 457 is not arrogant, why am I guilty of arrogance? In the next second, he was directly sent flying by Julie. This thing is so heavy. Doflamingo and Moria were shocked when they heard this. How is it possible? Luffy casually threw the divine axe on the ice, and instantly the extremely solid ice surface was smashed into a huge hole by the extremely heavy divine axe. I saw him clenched his right hand violently, and the muscles on his arm twitched. Your strength is too weak. Everyone looked at the axe in the huge pit in horror. This is the first time Hawkeye has admitted in public that his sword skills are not as good as Luffy's. Previous news agency reports were just hearsay in Zongleti restaurant. Chapter 236 Kizaru who refuses to release water. Advertisement. PFF ha ha ha, as expected of my grandson. Garp on the scaffold laughed. Sengoku's face turned black. You are laughing fart. Can't you see your grandson hang up? He is fishing for such an important combat power. Garp had a displeased expression. What do you mean by fishing? Didn't you see that Ace is afraid to make a move now? Sengoku rolled his eyes wildly when he heard the words, your uncle's, isn't that still your grandson? Akainu below looked down with an ugly face and snorted coldly. In his opinion, Luffy, the son of a criminal who didn't obey orders, was more uncomfortable in the limelight than he was in embarrassment. It's so scary, Kizaru sighed while shaking his head. When Hawkeye sees Luffy hockey, his blood is also surging. He hasn't had this kind of happiness in chasing goals for a long time. Invincible is so lonely, especially after the red hair lost an arm. He is already invincible in swordsmanship, which is why he is willing to train Zoro. However, the appearance of Luffy made him overjoyed, allowing him to regain the dream-chasing years. Hawkeye got up and jumped off the battlefield. Dracul Mahawk, is 7 warlords of the sea finally going to make a move? The Marines looked at Hawkeye in surprise and said. Oh, this is really rare, Kizaru said with a look of surprise. Akainu also looked at Hawkeye in surprise. That guy who does his own thing really wants to join the war. In Akainu's view, Hawkeye and the group of Shichibukai are just here to join in the fun because they are worried about being expelled from the world government. Hawkeye looked at Luffy who was sitting on the battlefield and no one dared to approach him, and set his sights on the strongest Whitebeard. Since I can't challenge Luffy, let me see how far the strongest in the world is from us. The sharp eyes frightened the surrounding Marines. I saw Hawkeye pulling out the Haidao Yi, one of the only 12 supreme sharp knives in the world, from behind. He raised his black knife and slashed at the ground. In an instant, a green slash rushed directly towards Whitebeard. Yoho, as long as I don't read the moves, I'm a real man with a level A and I'm ready to make a move. Single quote. Luffy sat cross-legged on the battlefield and raised his eyebrows watching the terrifying slash. Advertisement. I have to say that this guy may not be able to fight without opening the template himself. Maybe it can be consumed in a lazy way through the resurrection of the code. The terrifying slash smashed the ice layer more than 10 meters thick, and rushed straight towards Whitebeard standing on the Moby DK. The captain of the 3rd Division, Diamond Chaozi, who was in charge of holding the formation, jumped off the boat to block before the slash. Stop! Joes roared, and the terrifying slash directly collided with his body. With a loud roar, the sword energy was directly thrown into the sky. The pirates breathed a sigh of relief. The Marines looked at the unscathed Josie in disbelief and exclaimed, the world's #1 slash was blocked. No, the world's #2. A deep crevasse appeared between Mahawk and Joes. Joes raised his eyebrows provocatively at Hawkeye and grinned. HMPH, want to deal with our coach? You look down on us too much. The pirates cheered and rushed towards the Marines who were still in a daze. Now is not the time for you to be dazed, ha ha ha. Brothers, straight ahead. The Marines also came back to their senses suddenly. Attack. The two sides fought together again. The pirates, on the other hand, avoided the ice surface where Luffy was in a very tacit understanding. No one wanted to touch the brow of this unknown Golden Lion, Vice Admiral. Sengoku looked at the battlefield below and looked at Whitebeard with disdain. It's really stupid. Pirates are pirates, don't they plan to break through? Bombardment troops. Aim at the local warships, as well as the subsequent pirates. Frontline soldiers should also completely prevent them from going to the square. Sengoku took out a phone bug and gave the order. All of a sudden the cannon fire roared, and the 43 large ships that were coming were killed and wounded. After all, they were not the elite model of the Straw Hat Pirates and the Red Hair Pirates. Ignores Marine's shells. On the front line of the ice surface, it is not optimistic. Unlike Marine, which trains batches of masters through the Marine 6 styles, training camp mode, and standards. The New World Pirates are all ruthless people who have survived countless battles, especially the captains of each team, each has its own unique fighting style. Compared with the unified training of Marine Vice Admiral, it is even more difficult to deal with. After all, Marine mostly uses 6 styles and Kendo as their means of attack. Advertisement. On the other side of the pirates, there are all kinds of skills and moves. The participation of the captains directly made the Marine Vice Admirals start to retreat steadily. At this time, Kizaru looked at the situation of the battle, and then at Garp on the execution platform, and felt that it was a bit unreasonable for him to paddle like this. He stood up slowly. Really, as expected of the captains of the Whitebeard Pirates, all of them are as strong as monsters. As soon as the voice fell, Kizaru's figure disappeared from the stands in an instant, and the next second, Kizaru had already appeared in front of Fosa, the captain of the 15th Division. At this time, Fosa was holding a flaming sword and killing all directions in the marine. His long sword is covered with flammable liquid, as long as he ignites it with the cigar in his mouth to form a flaming sword to attack the enemy before opening. True physical enchantment. However, Kizaru appeared next to Fosa almost instantly on the stands. Brother Day, have you ever been kicked by the speed of light? Speed is power. True laser-guided missile. Seeing that the attack was fruitless, Kizaru stopped the attack decisively. Although Marco did not have the strength of the Emperor's lieutenant, as the second in command of the Whitebeard Pirates, he fought with Admiral as well as he could when he came back. At this time, Marco jumped up quickly, turned into a phoenix and stood in front of Fosa. Fosa, a team leader with ordinary Vice Admiral strength, didn't even have the time to react, and was kicked out in an instant. All the attacks were received by his body. Even Admiral may overturn if more than a dozen of physical strength is consumed, which is why the 3 admirals did not join forces to destroy the 4 emperors separately. Marco and the others changed their faces drastically. 8-foot Chonguyu. The faces of the other captains changed. Be careful, Fosa. The admiral with the highest combat power of the marine and the 4 emperors of the pirates do not mean invincibility, which is why countless pirates are eager to challenge the 4 emperors. Countless laser bombardments burst out smoke like air waves on his cyan flame body. Numerous lasers shot precisely in the direction of Buddha's arrival, not flying here, Qianzhao, like the 8-foot stroked jade when bombarding Luffy. After all, being a strong general or emperor does not mean that they can crush 4 emperors' cadres. Not to mention Kizaru, who has no intention of letting go. This guy is a werewolf who kicked his teacher to death. Kizaru, on the other hand, flew straight into the sky with dazzling lasers flashing in his hands. Fosa. Marco's body was damaged, recovered, damaged again, and recovered under the attack of Bachi Chonguyu. However, there is a huge gap in strength between cadres and emperor-level powerhouses. Chapter 237. It seems that Marco is also on fire. Advertisement. Don't underestimate our Whitebeard Pirates, B****************** D. Marco proudly said to Kizaru. Nice job, Marco. Seeing this, Ace hurriedly cheered loudly. Marco said to Ace. Ace, try not to use the Devil Fruit ability. Your brother should have the Devil Fruit ability to control fire. Ace's eyes lit up when he heard the words, and then suddenly realized. Understood. I saw that he was wrapped in armor and rushed directly towards Luffy. Haha, Luffy, even if you don't use Devil Fruit, you are still no match for me in terms of physical skills. Ace laughed and threw himself at Luffy. Seeing this, the Whitebeard Pirates cheered endlessly. Ah, come on, Ace, teach your brother a lesson. In the original plot, it took Luffy more than 2 years to reach the top of the 5 emperors, and Ace, who went to sea 3 years earlier than Luffy, was not lost to the 5 emperors Luffy under the guidance of Whitebeard. After all, the talent of the blood of One Piece is not much better than that of Garp, not to mention that with Whitebeard's all-in-one gift, it is much better than the fake teacher Rayleigh. After all, Rayleigh and Shank's first target was Ace, but Garp sent them to the bandit Dayton, but they never found it. In addition, the Nika fruit 877 prepared for Ace was eaten by Luffy by mistake, so they had to set a training goal. But can the son of the captain be the same as the grandson of the captain's nemesis? So Luffy's training in the past 2 years is not as solid as Kaido's 3 sticks. So at this time, Ace definitely has the strength to match his title as the captain of the second team. First-hand emission is even more pure and pure. The so-called emission is just like releasing the internal air to the outside, it has the effect of hitting from the air and destroying the inside. At this time, Ace's fist had not yet touched Luffy, and the terrifying fist wind had already pressed the solid ice around Luffy into spider web-like patterns. Luffy, only hockey can surpass everything. Let you feel the strength that I and Dad have developed. Ace yelled and threw himself at Luffy. Advertisement. Garp's face changed when he saw this. Luffy's strength soared too fast, and he had no chance to teach Luffy the advanced use of hockey. Luffy, little, Garp yells at Luffy on the field. However, before he could finish his words, Ace went back and forth from where he came from, and Garp stuck in place in an instant with a shouting voice. Then he continued to yell. Luffy, do it softly. I'm still waiting for my grandson. Everyone looked at Garp in unison. As for Luffy, when Ace attacked, he had already stood up from the ice. Although it is only 50% of the combat power of the morning body. But 50% of Ace Kano as the crime of arrogance is pretty scary too. The axe Rita, which even the demons can't lift, and the heavy weapons that the leader has to drag, can be easily lifted with one hand by Ace Kano in the early morning state. Meliodas also said without hesitation that Ace Kano is the strongest of the 7 deadly sins. At this time, Luffy deeply demonstrated the powerful power of Ace Kano. As one of the few templates that is not restricted by the body, although there is a night debuff limit, but during the day, Luffy can receive Ace Kano's full amount all strength. The bonus of the terrifying sun magic power is the terrifying body. At this time, Luffy is not on the sea that is not easy to stand on, and Ace is not the only Lieutenant Rayleigh. Facing Ace's fist, Luffy directly raised his sandbag-sized fist and collided with it. The terrifying power caused Ace to fly backwards without even being able to survive for a second. Without the addition of Devil Fruit, Ace's strength has been lowered by a notch. At this time, Ace is like Luffy who just learned emission when he met an ant and was directly beaten out. Ace! The captains of the Whitebeard pirates shouted in concern. Marco looked at Luffy in shock. He could feel that Luffy might not be on the same level as himself at this time. BECJ, Deputy Emperor. Marco can deeply feel Luffy's strength at this time, and has already stepped into the line between the cadre and the Emperor. Advertisement. Maybe it is still a bit difficult to face 4 emperors or 3 admirals, but they already belong to the strong players on the same level as them. Ace, stop looking for your brother. Find someone else. Marco yelled at Ace, and immediately said to Diamond Jazzy, look at Straw Hat Luffy. Don't let him shoot anyone else. Diamond Chows immediately responded with a bang and ran to the front of Luffy to stare at Luffy. On my side, there is only one Whitebeard with the strength of the Emperor's level, and the rest have not yet reached the level of the Emperor's deputy. If you want to stop Luffy alone, you must have several captains. If it weren't for the difficulty in developing Shining Fruit, and Josie's lack of consciousness in battle, and being frozen by Aokiji while Aokiji was distracted and crippled an arm, I'm afraid Summit War would be one of the few guys who can escape unscathed. At this time, Luffy below looked at the flames on Ace and Marco and fell into deep thought. Kizaru looked at Marco with a smile. Zone Phantom Beast -. Phoenix form is even rarer than Logia, it seems that the attack is not effective. This made everyone in the Whitebeard pirates breathe a sigh of relief. However, it was obvious that they were thinking too much. Luffy had no intention of continuing to attack, and sat down on the ground again. It seems that Marco is also covered with flames. Marco urged Jose again. Jose, keep an eye on him. Ace, let's deal with Kizaru together. Is it really the legendary ability? Okay. Ace immediately agreed, and ran to Marco's side. The two of them, one with blue flames and the other with red flames, formed an esoteric map to confront Kizaru. Although Jaws's strength may not be considered the strongest, his defensive power is absolutely terrifying. At this time, Marco was like Logia, and the wounded part turned into blue flames and burned to heal. Marine below looked at Marco and Ace with solemn faces, and they looked at Marco's blue-yellow flame wings and asked in confusion, what is that flame? It has been attacked by Mr. Kizaru head-on and has not fallen yet. Quote. At this time, Josie clearly regarded Luffy as the primary target. Once Luffy made a move, he would go up to him as a target. Anyway, even the attack power of the Emperor's deputy level should not hurt him at all. After all, the hardness of diamonds is not a joke. Seeing this, Kizaru raised his eyebrows, put on an expression of, I'm so scared, and said, it's so scary, Whitebeard pirates, captains of the first and second teams. Now the opponent's 3 admirals have not been released yet, but his cards are almost exhausted. Marco, who was gradually recovering, smiled triumphantly at Kizaru. It worked. Diamonds are so hard that even eagle eyes can't cut them. Chapter 238. Marco forced to become a social terrorist. Advertisement. It worked. Marco, who had recovered, smiled triumphantly at Kizaru. The corner of Kizaru's mouth raised. Stop lying. Marco yelled directly, and his whole body began to change rapidly. The hands are turned into wings, the feet are turned into sharp claws, and the head is directly turned into a bird head wearing a pattern of glasses. Zone Beast form. Phoenix form. That's the team leader. Marco, the phoenix who can be reborn from the ashes no matter what attack he receives. Marine below was sweating profusely looking at Marco. At this time, Marco's body was full of blue-yellow flames. Directly, he raised his head and flew towards the sky. Then it swooped down towards Kizaru like a fighter jet. Ah, I've never seen this kind of bird. Kizaru smiled and prepared to use the 8-foot Chonguyu again, but when his hands were flashing lasers, he staggered, and his eyes were fixed on Marco who was high in the sky. I'm stupid. The best actor ape couldn't maintain his sloppy character and blurted out. The marine and the pirate below fell to the ground with a plop. The captains of the many Whitebeard pirates almost stared at Marco with their eyeballs out. I saw the flames on the body of Marco's swooping phoenix fixed in the air like a coat. And Marco swooped down on Kizaru like a molted pheasant. Kizaru, who was casting a spell, didn't come up in one breath. Seeing the phoenix flying towards him, he felt sick and wanted to vomit blood. Kizaru, who was going to be hit by Marco, looked at the naked bird and said, stay away from me. Kizaru's feet flashed golden light, as if he saw a shit, he kicked towards Marco's bird face with full force and speed of light. Marco was stunned. You are not at this speed just now. Originally, according to Kizaru's original plan, he took Marco's kick hard, then pretended to be kicked, and then got off work. As a result, This bald Marco is really too magical, especially between the G legs, even in the form of a naked bird, it makes people collapse. Advertisement. Kizaru didn't care about finding a place to paddle to rest anymore, and kicked the exhibitionist out with one kick. This is live news. If he was knocked out of the field by this guy, his reputation would be ruined, and he would never even think about being in the Grand Line. And Marco slammed into Ace's side fiercely with a mouthful of blood. So strong. As expected of Admiral, Marco looked at Kizaru with a solemn face, and suddenly he felt a little cold. It stands to reason that he, in the form of a phoenix, cannot feel the cold. He looked at Ace staring at his body with a strange face. What's the matter, Ace? Don't worry, it's just a kick, I can still handle it. Suddenly he saw his own Qingyan frozen in the sky, he turned his head stiffly to Ace, only to see Ace nodded to him with a determined face. Marco lowered his head in despair, and a body like a white chicken caught Marco's eyes. Ah! A shriek of despair resounded through Crescent Bay. Marco transforms from beast form to human form with lightning speed and jingle bells. Qingyan in midair also disappeared into the air with Marco's transformation. Luffy, who was sitting on the ice, hadn't recovered from the shock at this time, suddenly covered his eyes and shouted, I'm stupid. I'm blind. I'm blind. It's over. I'm not pure. Marco yelled at Luffy frantically. B********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************* furious Marco. Calm down. Calm down. Think about his strength. Joe's on the side also hurried to Marco to persuade him. Brother, let's deal with the others first. At this time, Marco stared at Luffy with a very strange face, and the green flame rose from the ashes on his head, and quickly healed the damage that Kizaru kicked just now. Luffy waved his hands at Marco with a look of disgust. What are you looking at? Lousy will kill the flames on your body. Originally, he was just experimenting to see if he could control the flames on Marco's body, but the result was beyond Luffy's expectation. The naked bird ran wildly. Who could bear it? As soon as Luffy's words came out, Marco's veins suddenly exposed. % at hash. I'm out for a one-on-one fight. I'm stupid. One-on-one. Ace quickly grabbed him again. Brother. No way. No way. Kizaru is watching. At this time, Joe slammed into the ice, sending an iceberg as big as Marineford Square across the battlefield and directly towards the execution platform, if you have the ability to stop it. The size of the iceberg is no less than that of the meteorites that Fujitora fell with the fruit of gravity. So big. The Marines looked at the black shadow in the sky in astonishment. Even the Titan Vice Admiral is like a big mouse under the iceberg. At this time, only Akainu was left under the execution platform, asking for flowers. Advertisement. He looked dissatisfied at the huge ice cubes in the sky, and slowly stood up from his seat angrily, looking at Kizaru who was watching the show on the battlefield and Aokiji who didn't know where to paddle. Really those guys. We'll go AWOL. If we all attack, who will guard this place? Akainu yelled, and his right hand turned into a giant fist of magma. Great eruption. The huge fist directly penetrated the huge iceberg in the sky, and the terrifying high temperature melted the iceberg instantly. However, this is not over yet. The huge magma fist suddenly exploded in the sky, and countless meteor-like volcanic bombs smashed towards the pirates. For a while, it seemed like a meteor shower fell in the sky, and flames were everywhere. An auxiliary ship of the Moby DK was smashed to pieces in the magma rain. Countless pirates fled hastily under such an attack. The Whitebeard pirates, who had managed to advance a certain distance, ran back helplessly to avoid the magma rain. The reporters and the audience in Sabaody looked at such a horrible scene full of fear. It's really like watching the end of the world. The audience said in shock. Not good. Luffy Vice Admiral is still in the range of the meteor shower. The retreating Marines suddenly reacted and turned pale with shock. An imperceptible smile flashed across the corner of Akainu's mouth. HMPH, let you watch a play there, you deserve to be affected. However, the Marines below suddenly exclaimed, look at the battlefield. Akainu frowned and looked over. I saw a golden magic ball like the sun appearing on the battlefield. What shocked him was that the meteor shower caused by his great eruption was as fragile as a small flame in front of the golden sun, but any meteor that came close to the fireball would be instantly burned to ashes by the fireball. The magma was burned to ashes. Shocked, Akainu withdrew his arm that turned into magma and stared at Luffy. I saw Luffy contemptuously pointing the middle finger towards Akainu with the other hand. Then he waved his index finger lightly. Sun without mercy. The fireball shot out in an instant and directly hit another auxiliary ship, and that auxiliary ship was smashed through by the huge sun in an instant. But the sun that passed through the auxiliary ship did not disappear. When passing by the last auxiliary ship, Luffy grabbed it lightly with his right hand, exploding arrogance. With a loud bang, the last auxiliary ship also died directly in the explosion. Chapter 239 The line of defense collapsed. Scary shadow. Advertisement. The auxiliary ship and the auxiliary ship were all blown up. Everyone in the Whitebeard pirates looked at the bombed secondary ship with ugly faces, which was their means of transportation when they retreated. It has now been destroyed as a ship. Whitebeard looked at the competing Luffy and Akainu with a gloomy face. You two brats. Akainu grinned triumphantly. Are you out of breath? Whitebeard. Luffy hurriedly spread his hands. It has nothing to do with me, I just want to prove that I am much better than him haha. Akainu's anger flashed, but he couldn't get angry directly in the live broadcast battlefield. He glanced at Whitebeard, and retreated from the execution platform calmly. At this time, the pirates who saw Akainu leaving the field launched an attack again, and the Titan vice-admirals also began to join the battlefield. As the power coveted by the 4 emperors and the world government, every Titan who joined the marine gave a vice-admiral position. And they also lived up to the status of 643 vice-admiral. The huge weapon was cut down, and the little Carla Rice was killed and injured immediately. The captains of the Whitebeard pirates had to split some of their people to deal with these big guys. Luffy looked around the battlefield. Although the battlefield was in a state of anxiety, Marine relied on the huge number of people to hold the Whitebeard pirates in the bay. In the original plot, Luffy ran so many episodes that the pirate was beaten back halfway through the run. After finally reaching the base of the city wall, Kizaru gave a life-saving kick and returned to Whitebeard's hands. At that time, Luffy almost scolded his mother when he saw it. Now that I have experienced it personally, I have to sigh that Whitebeard's move is no different from suicide. The arrival of the red hair is definitely not an accident. Whitebeard's plan at the time was to exchange his life for Ace's life. Originally, Luffy was skeptical about the launch of the Summit War this time. After all, some young men of the big fleet under his command let 4 emperors Whitebeard come to die. It is not because of reality in any way. However, Luffy still underestimated the obsession of the people in One Piece world, and his desire for family directly surpassed life and death. Luffy looked at Ace, who was confronting Kizaru. Why not recognize him as his father? After all, Ace's obsession seems to be to find a father, and it seems that being a younger brother is not as important as being a father. At this time, there were no scenes of Kobe and Belumbo on the battlefield. After all, these 2 guys were sent to prison by themselves when Luffy went to sea. Like this kind of waste that beats the momentum when Marine is chasing after the victory, Luffy felt that Akainu did a rare and beautiful thing for the first time when watching the animation, but it was a pity that he was stopped by the red hair. At this time, without the 2 shit-stirring sticks, the Marines on the battlefield are doing their best to defend justice with their lives. Suddenly Luffy stared at the execution platform, and Akainu's figure had disappeared from the stands. Luffy narrowed his eyes, stood up slowly. Diamond Chow stared at Luffy nervously, for fear that he would jump up and join the battlefield. The influence of the strength of an emperor's lieutenant on the battle situation is terrifying. Advertisement. However, Luffy did not join the battlefield, but quickly retreated towards the residential area behind. What did Luffy do? Garp frowned at Luffy as he left the battle. Sengoku's expression changed slightly when he thought of something suddenly. He had acquiesced in Akainu's plan to alienate the pirates. After all, as the resourceful general, Sengoku not only considers victory, but also considers how to minimize Marine's losses. It is understandable to use this strategy. Sengoku frowned, thinking in his heart, Luffy shouldn't be that rigid person, right? He has attacked pirates a lot. At this moment, Ma Lin Fan began to tremble violently towards the entire island, and a huge black shadow slowly walked over from the sea lying on the sea. I'm coming. The pirates' eyes were full of excitement when they saw this. Little Oz. Although it is in the waters near the island, being able to lie down on the seawater and advance is enough to show how huge Little Oz is. An ordinary marine is not even an ant under him. Titan Vice Admiral is barely a third as tall as him. Hancock looked at Little Oats in amazement and said, there is such a huge man in the open sea. Moria immediately stared at Little Oz with excitement in her eyes. The devil. Ha ha ha. The devil. I finally found it. As expected of the devil, he. He is mine. No one is allowed to move. At this time, Little Ozzy has already reached the frozen waters of the bay. The huge warship that was originally a reinforced version is like a toy in front of Little Oats. The cannons hit Little Ozzy's body like small cannons, and they couldn't even pierce the thick skin. Oz. Ace yelled at Little Ozzy in surprise. Sengoku looked at Little Ozzy's island-like body and sighed, are you worthy of the Whitebeard pirates? At this time, the Titan Vice Admirals began to jump over many pirates and rush towards Little Ozzy. Go. Stop him. That's our job. Ronsa, the leader, yelled at his companions. However, the huge body brings more than just bulkiness. Little Oz, who was nearly 40 meters high, directly lifted a huge warship and threw it towards the Titan Vice Admirals. Advertisement. The huge force directly knocked the Titan Vice Admirals into the air, and opened a big hole in the port of Crescent Bay. For a time, the momentum of the pirates skyrocketed. Go. Ozzy opened the breach into the bay. Break into the bay. Countless pirates jumped into the bay on the throne warship. The battlefield commander, Vice Admiral, quickly shouted, no. Back up. Strengthen the defense in the bay. They must not be allowed to log into the square. The Marines who were immediately affected retreated to the second line of defense. During Sabaody's live broadcast, the reporters nervously watched the situation before them. It's bad. Marines' defense line has been breached. That's the descendant of Oz, the Oddman of Unshima, right? It's several times bigger than the Titans. It's terrifying. Is the end of the world coming? Is Marine going to be defeated by pirates? Marine's family members looked nervous at the scene in front of them. Suddenly, a sharp-eyed reporter looked at the side of Marineford Square and was stunned. Look. What is that? A 3-masted ship bigger than Marineford suddenly appeared from the side of Marineford. Terrorist 3-masted ship. Isn't this the pirate ship of Moonlight Mariah? When did it appear here in 5.4? Sengoku frowned and looked at the ship next to him. Devil Fruit ability. At this time, Absalom, the transparent fruit ability user on the 3-masted ship, sat down on the ground. During this period of time, he kept the entire huge ship invisible for a long time. Although this is a basic skill, he has to hide from the masters of naval headquarters, and casting the spell for such a long time has almost exhausted his physical strength. What are you doing, Moria? Sengoku yelled at Moria, who was laughing from the stands. He. Moria laughed maniacally. Marshal Sengoku, don't panic. I'm here to help you. I saw a more terrifying red titan zombie jumping out from the three-masted ship. Its size was close to 70 meters. Everyone looked at the terrifying black figure in astonishment. This is Oz the Oz. Chapter 240. Your uncle, I've known you for so long, and you're actually gay. Advertisement. Little Ozzy sprinted into the bay with an attack speed that was completely inconsistent with his huge body. The Titan Vice Admiral had no single enemy under the power of Little Ozzy. After almost a set of combos, Lekoroi Vice Admiral had already been cut down to the ground. Whitebeard smiled at the corner of Ozzy's mouth, who had come to the center of the bay. Ozzy is an idiot, I really can't do anything about him. Then Whitebeard laughed and yelled at Little Ozzy, don't die and be brave are not the same thing. Ozzy. Don't stop me, Dad. Ozzy said to Whitebeard innocently, I'm going to save them, and save the Skuyard brothers as fast as I can. Whitebeard grinned and shouted at the fighting pirates, you guys, go and help him clean up. Go cover Ozzy. Ow. The pirates understood and hid behind Ozzy and rushed forward with him. Just when Little Ozzy was about to break into the port successfully, the same huge monster Oz appeared. Everyone looked at this 80-meter-tall giant in horror, and the 40-meter Ozzy was just a child in front of him. He. Moria laughed excitedly, it's God's will to meet the offspring of the devil. Ozzy's body matches Little Ozzy's shadow, this is a perfect match. 14. I am following Little Ozzy. The charging pirates suddenly saw the bewildered expression of Ozzy, who popped out suddenly. How can it be? How can there be a guy bigger than Little Oz? This is the ancestor of Little Oz. The Devil Oz. Impossible. How can he still be alive? Idiot. Isn't that alive? Don't you see his sutured bandages and one missing eye? This is a zombie. Zombie. The little pirates looked at the terrifying figure in horror. Marry me. The Devil Oz stepped from the three-masted ship into Crescent Bay with two giant knives in hand. The huge body directly blocked the gap that Little Ozzy had smashed. Ah, master, marry me, the Devil Oz said blankly to Moria below. Moria's face darkened. Shut up. Put me in quickly. Oh, the Devil Ozzy directly took off the bandage on his stomach under the horror of everyone, revealing a luxurious small private room. Moria sat proudly in it and drank red wine, originally planning to find a more powerful shadow to wake Ozzy up. As a result, he has not met a suitable shadow for so many years, and he was summoned by the world government, so he had to take a shadow from among the zombie generals to wake up Ozzy in case of emergency. However, the appearance of Little Ozzy surprised him, and he no longer cared about hiding the three-masted ship to reveal Ozzy. Oz, come on, get him under control. Advertisement. Moria shouted excitedly, and Ozzy went directly towards Shaoli. 80 meters Titan vs 40 meters Titan. Everyone looked at this scene full of shock. Every move they make can set off a hurricane, blowing people crooked. This is the reason why the government carried out the human giant experiment and the ant made friends with the Titan race. Married, Ozzy muttered and looked at Little Ozzy, who was opposite him. He compared the size of the two and looked at Little Ozzy excitedly and shouted, marriage partner. You want to marry me? On the opposite side, Little Ozzy was covered in fine hair, looking at the corpse of his ancestor who was more than half his height. He was so frightened that he almost turned his head and ran away. The Devil Ozzy pouted and kissed Little Ozzy on the opposite side. Both the Marine and the pirate below stared wide-eyed at the same time, and even the knife fell to the ground in shock. I boil. On the battlefield, a foul language was uttered in unison. Doflamingo even looked at Moria on his stomach with a sore face and yelled, your uncle, I have known you for so long, and you are so gay. Moria on the belly furious, you fart. Then he quickly used his devil fruit ability to control Ozzy with Lola's shadow with his shadow. Hurry up and hit him. You be ********** D. Moria yelled at Ozzy angrily. No, I want to marry him. Ozzy strode directly towards Little Ozzy. Kiss the gun. Mew. Ozzy pressed Little Ozzy's shoulder and kissed left and right with his eyes closed. For a while, the sound of vomiting continued on the battlefield. Nima Moria, didn't expect you to be a gay. B********** D. Are you worthy of the name 7 Warlords of the Sea? Sengoku looked at Ozzy with a disgusted face and scolded, your uncle. The world government is looking for a bunch of rubbish. Moria was furious, and directly took over Ozzy's body with her shadow, and began to throw at Little Ozzy. Advertisement. The terrifying power directly overturned Little Ozzy. This is always a sigh of relief. This scene appears on the battlefield where everyone is desperate to win. Isn't this a joke for people all over the world? The reporters in Sabaody looked at each other, and an assistant asked the editor-in-chief with a photo of a forced kiss, this. Shall we post it? Send it to you, uncle. You don't want to live anymore. Just pretend you didn't see it. Send the photo of the two titans fighting. The editor-in-chief growled at the new assistant speechlessly. Just kidding, if you really want to send it out, it will offend the 4 forces of Marine, Pirates, World Government, and Shichibukai at the same time. Isn't it funny to put your life in it for 1/8 trigrams? While Ozzy is attracting attention, everyone will attack. Countless arrows containing haki combined with the petrified arrows immediately emptied the pirates in a small area under the city wall. The cadres and female fighters of the 9 snake pirates also used their accompanying snake bows to shoot at the pirates below without showing any weakness. At this time, the 9 snake pirates began to show their power under the leadership of the Empress. At this time, the pirates who had arrived under the port wall shouted loudly. All the shells and pirates hit by arrows were turned into stone statues. My concubine has agreed to that lord to quit Shichibukai and join the marine. Naturally, I will not let you pirates go. Countless Cupid's arrows shot towards the pirates below. Garp on the side laughed loudly. Wow ha ha ha. As expected of my grandson. Suddenly a black shadow flashed past, and a figure was already standing in front of him. Sengoku on the execution platform looked confused. What did she say? She wants to be a marine. The pirates of the Whitebeard pirates retreated in a hurry. Hole. You are the pirate queen. Why do you want to be marine's dog? I saw Hancock blowing out a huge red heart and pulling it with his hand. Slave arrow. 147. Hancock sneered at the petrified minions below. Hearing the words, Hancock jumped into the battlefield and kicked the rude pirate to pieces. The soldiers took a closer look, and it was Akainu, one of the 3 most powerful admirals in Marine. And at this time in the residential area behind Marineford Square. A Marine soldier is fleeing in panic. Sengoku's face became even more confused when he heard that. It's none of your grandson's business. Chapter 241. Standing in the center of the era, the battle begins. Advertisement. Akainu looked down at the panicked soldier in front of him, and said blankly, go back to the battlefield. 1. This is a lieutenant junior grade who came from a branch. He backed up and gestured to Akainu. Please let me go. Please. My legs are weak when I think of my family. Please you, please. Akainu raised his head viciously. Our marine bears the justice of the world, and everyone is fighting with their lives to protect the family behind them. A guy who leaves his back to the enemy and drags him before the battle is not worthy of being called a marine of. If you really think about your family, don't live in vain. Akainu's arm turned into magma and drowned the deserters. At this time, another colonel from the headquarters came to report. Sakazuki Admiral, the battle is ready. Really? Akainu nodded and walked towards the pier again. At this time, Luffy walked out from a street corner with a video shell, and he glanced at the lieutenant junior grade that had been burned to ashes on the ground. Tisk tisk, deserters are bound to die during a war, but it will be interesting when this scene is released after the war, isn't it a bit unfair? Luffy smiled and turned the video recorder in his hand. Pirates are really pirates, they are all a group of interests. Even if there is no Skayad, there is also a Delaxi. It seems that not everyone both have the same obsessions as you, Whitebeard. Then Luffy put away the video and followed Akainu to the battlefield again. At this time, both sides of the battlefield are in a mess. In the bay, 2 giants, Oz and Little Oz, fight each other, forming an independent battlefield. The port that was smashed by Ozzy's warship is the main route for the Whitebeard pirates and the Marines to compete. With the help of Little Ozzy, the 43 large fleets had already broken through the blockade of dozens of warships and rushed into the bay. The Ice Witch Whitebeard's icebreaker even knocked a gap in the port again with its terrifying power. With the breakthrough of the defense line, the momentum of the pirates increased greatly. Tens of thousands of pirates launched a general attack on the marine in the port along the ice. This time, in addition to the 1,600 main members of the pirate group, Whitebeard has gathered more than 50,000 powerful pirates from the New World in its 43 large ships. Although there is a huge difference in number from the 100,000 elites gathered by Marine, the pirates are even better in terms of the frenzy of licking blood. Looking at the increasingly chaotic battlefield, Doflamingo looked up to the sky and laughed excitedly. The captain of the 10 main teams in front of him, Buffalo Aster, was slashing his subordinates uncontrollably. Hole. Doflamingo is your fault. Advertisement. Aster roared angrily at Doflamingo, but his strength was far from Doflamingo's, not enough to resist Doflamingo's string fruit ability. It's so addictive. Doflamingo looked at the Marines and pirates who had lost countless lives and licked their tongues. I feel like I'm in the center of this era. Now only the position in front of me is neutral. Are pirates evil? Marines are just. Heh. This concept has been rewritten countless times. Ha ha ha. The values of the little devils who don't know what peace is and the little devils who don't know what war is are different. Only the one at the top can define good and evil. Now this position is neutral. Justice will prevail, of course. Because only the winner is justice. Ha ha ha. Doflamingo laughed and continued to control the Buffalo Aster to slash and kill the surrounding pirates. Fire punch. A huge fire fist struck, and the thread wrapped around Aster's body was blown off. Doflamingo, you are looking for death. Ace directly threw a fist to force Doflamingo back. As a string fruit, he is naturally restrained by Ace's Mara fruit. Hey, he still dares to use Mara fruit. Are you not afraid that your brother will come out again? Doflamingo mocked with a chuckle. Looking for death. Ace's complexion changed, and he went straight to kill Doflamingo while Luffy was not on the scene. Doflamingo cursed in his heart. What are you doing looking for me? So many Marines don't want to look for them, but they want to look for me. But what about Kizaru and Aokiji? Why are these two showing off their skills so no one is there? Doflamingo tried to find the admirals while hiding. However, Ace pursued him closely, and when his string fruit touched Ace's flame, it was burned to ashes, and Doflamingo was so angry that he scolded his mother in his heart. At this time, Sengoku listened to the report of the messenger. 2 places at the head of the bay were breached. Pirates under the command of the Whitebeard pirates began to invade the bay on a large scale from these 2 places. Hearing this, Sengoku took out a green phone bug from his pocket. Grandma Crane, the battle is about to start. Advertisement. Vice Admiral, a crane at the head of a first-line bay, nodded. The timing is just right. At this time, several pirates shouted towards Vice Admiral, "Smelly old woman, die." In the next second, several pirates instantly turned into clothes hanging on the clothesline, with endless smiles on their faces. "It's 100 years before I want to beat me." Crane Vice Admiral said to another phone bug, "I know all the soldiers on the ship, retreat from the bay." Nani, how is that possible? As an old opponent, he knows that the resourceful General Sengoku is not so easy to deal with, and he has a bad feeling in his heart to be invaded so easily. Father, according to the current momentum, we can already break through the defense line head-on. Should we give up? Brother D. Carlban asked strangely. Follow my command, all pirates, attack from the surrounding warships. Sengoku looked at Whitebeard with a sneer. Have you noticed it? Unfortunately, it's too late. Whitebeard nodded upon hearing the words. If that's the case, let's forget about it. Brother D. Carl is here, right? Many of the Whitebeard pirates and the pirates of the Grand Fleet were shocked, so their way back was completely blocked. At this time, the entire Whitebeard pirate group, including the pirates of the Big Ship group, have all entered the Crescent Bay in the east of ice. Brother D. Carlban looked at each other and responded quickly. I see, old man. Father. He was still there just now, but he seems to have walked away. Delaxie's subordinates looked around and said, that guy wants to show his enthusiasm in front of Dad. The entire Crescent Bay began to shake violently. Under the circular wall, thick iron walls broke through the ice directly to form a giant cage, enclosing the entire Whitebeard pirate group inside. Immediately, the two commanded the pirates of the large fleet to kill towards the outer edge of Crescent Bay. At this time, Whitebeard was also carefully observing the battlefield. He saw Sengoku, Garp, and Crane who were holding phone bugs to communicate with each other, frowning. But the Marines all abandoned their opponents and ran towards the wall. Whitebeard narrowed his eyes and said, I'm not happy with the way things are going. And Whitebeard also noticed that the Marine formation was wrong at this time. He decisively took out the phone bug and ordered to the pirates in the big ship group behind. I am Whitebeard. Is Delaxie there? The battle begins. What's the matter? Daddy. Good money Zhao. Chapter 242. This program is specially sponsored by Shunfeng Express. Advertisement. At this moment, wearing a hat and robes, Delaxie slowly appeared behind Whitebeard, and at this moment, he was sweating and walking slowly towards Whitebeard. Delaxie, are you alright? Whitebeard looked at the sun behind him in surprise. Always, finally, is still alive. Delaxie spoke slowly and his tone became even more clumsy. Really, the Bureau has been unable to contact you since just now. How is the situation in Wantu? The pirates under his command are dead, injured, bad, heavy. Delaxie said slowly. Sengoku will not show mercy. Whitebeard stared at Sengoku on the execution platform in front of him and said, unexpectedly, he fell into his trick. Before Whitebeard finished speaking, Delaxie suddenly stabbed Whitebeard with a knife. Marco and Ace below stared at Delaxie with wide-eyed horror and roared loudly, what are you doing? B****************. There was a triumphant smile on the corner of Akainu's mouth. Sengoku stood there silent and did not speak. Delaxie's originally slow speech suddenly became fluent and shouted, I'm sorry, Dad. We also want to live. What Whitebeard is absolutely not 770 will abandon the family, but for those 20 people, I will not accept the whole group of beards. At this time, Delaxie's knife had pierced Whitebeard's skin. Whitebeard, who was already seriously injured internally, failed to react when facing his family. There was disbelief on Whitebeard's face, and the pain on his skin made his heart more painful. However, just when Delaxie was about to succeed in the assassination, a figure suddenly appeared beside Whitebeard. Bang! With everyone stunned, a golden light flashed, and Delaxie's head split in two and flew out. Alala! A light voice came, we Marine don't need this kind of despicable justice. Luffy smiled at Whitebeard as he stood beside the headless Delaxie with Rita on his shoulder. Advertisement. Akainu snorted and the armrest of the seat was instantly melted by the magma. He lowered his face and personally went to assassinate Whitebeard, the captain on the opposite side. The plan that was about to be perfectly successful was broken by Luffy. Sengoku's heart twitched, and he yelled at BEDC, Garp, look at your grandson. He actually saved the pirate. Garp laughed loudly when he heard the words, we are Marine, we are indeed my grandsons. Have you forgotten Berndi Waldo? Different from the dark justice of the world government, Marine has always relied on its upright prestige to intimidate the world. Sengoku and Garp were pressured by the celestial dragons to team up with the pirates when they hunted down the world destroyer Berndi Waldo, a Momo fruit-capable user. And also relying on Scipio's backstab to easily win Berndi Waldo. At that time, Berndi Waldo yelled at the two, Sengoku, Garp. I misread you too. This incident has always been a thorn in the hearts of both Garp and Sengoku. Sengoku snorted coldly. Whitebeard is not a person who is willing to accept this kind of charity, you just hope that your grandson can carry it down. Jingle bell. Delaxie's knife fell from Whitebeard's body, and a few drops of blood slid from Sunbird's skin. Whitebeard's expression, which had always been as steady as a mountain, was now full of complexity. Why? Whitebeard seemed to be muttering as if asking Luffy. Is there even a need to ask? Luffy laughed twice. Immediately, Whitebeard stared fixedly at the enraged Akainu as if seeking proof. At this time, Akainu's eyes were burning, and he was staring at the direction of Luffy and Whitebeard. His eyes were filled with murderous aura, and he didn't know who he was targeting. Without looking back at Luffy, Whitebeard said slowly, "Little brat, the straw hat on your back is very similar to the one that Redhead wore before." Luffy chuckled. "Shanks, that's the one on his head." Whitebeard paused when he heard the words, and remembered what Shanks said when he met him. "Your uncle, you, a pirate, bet your left arm on the head of a marine. I'm afraid you're not full. You appear here, do you know who the enemy is?" Whitebeard clenched Kong Yunchi's hand and said slowly. "Rescuing the enemy on the battlefield. Like you will die." Advertisement. Whitebeard yelled loudly and slammed Kong Yunchi violently, and the terrifying Conqueror's haki rushed out in all directions. The cloak behind Luffy whirred as the Conqueror's haki struck. Even Luffy, who has soared to a height of 3 meters, looks extremely thin in front of Whitebeard's terrifying figure. At this time, both pirates and marine were in an uproar. The reporters of Sabaody Archipelago were all stunned. What happened here? Why did the Whitebeard pirates assassinate Whitebeard, but the marines saved him? What are Whitebeard talking about with Luffy Vice Admiral? Could it be Luffy Vice Admiral who was really undercover? All the reporters were at a loss with their pens in their hands. The live phone bug could at most play out nearby voices. Although Whitebeard, who was in the middle of the battlefield, had a dedicated live phone bug too. But everyone can only see the image but not hear the sound. And just when everyone was confused, one of the 3 giant screens suddenly went black, and a clear voice came out. "Ah, look. There is the Golden Lion Vice Admiral Monkey D. Luffy Buggy, the president of Shunfeng Express. I heard that Roger, the Pirate King, joined Marine after he was invited by Golden Lion Vice Admiral 3 times." In the next second, Buggy's red nose appeared in the shot. "Everyone kept you waiting. This is Marineford." The camera moved, and the tragic image of Marineford's dead body appeared in front of everyone at close range. Is this a live broadcast? The reporters were surprised to see the picture in front of them. You should know that there is a certain delay in the camera phone bug with a fixed lens, and there is basically no sound. At this time, Sengoku also suddenly saw the live broadcast, and he yelled at Marine who was in charge of the collaboration below. "Hey! What is this? What's going on?" Lieutenant Colonel Marine below trembled and quickly saluted. "Report to the Marshal, just now the Golden Lion Vice Admiral is looking for a live video phone bug from the propaganda department." Nani? Sengoku was stunned with rage. At this time, Buggy is standing in the camera wearing the downwind cloak of the Marine Justice Cloak. This program is specially sponsored by Shunfeng Express. Shunfeng Express will deliver goods to tens of thousands of customers. Everyone. Chapter 243. Akainu, who was mad by anger, singled out Whitebeard. Advertisement. "Captain Buggy, your nose bleeds." The younger brother on the side reminded Buggy in a low voice. Huh. Buggy was taken aback, and hurriedly turned his head and began to touch up his makeup with the mirror. Khalifa on the side pushed his glasses. "If you waste any more time, Master Luffy will kill you in a while." Buggy trembled when he heard the words, and his nose ran down. "Come here." I saw him hastily took out a video and started playing the previously recorded picture. Akainu in the stands had a bad feeling in his heart. Sure enough, he saw the picture of Whitebeard's Captain Delaxi appearing in the live broadcast, in private. The reporters who immediately recorded the live situation on the battlefield were blown up. Akainu Admiral committed himself to instigating against the pirates on the other side. Dengtang Marine's highest combat power actually uses such a low-level method. Shouldn't Marine's justice be upright? This is big news, hurry up and send it back. The reporters immediately watched the excitement and took the photo of Akainu and Delaxi standing together with various texts and spread it to all over the world. Akainu on the battlefield turned pale immediately, and he shouted at Luffy, "Monkey D. Luffy, you are looking for death. You are the son of the world's #1 criminal, I think you are a real undercover agent." For a moment, the battlefield fell into a deathly silence. Garp and Sengoku looked at Akainu with livid faces, and Garp looked at Sakazuki with murderous intent. It's okay if Luffy is the pirate special Sakuya, but at this time Luffy is the future of Marine, how dare this be ********* D reveal this. However, before everyone on the battlefield was upset, Luffy's words, "We Marine don't need this kind of despicable justice," spread directly across the battlefield. Advertisement. It's a loudspeaker phone bug. Akainu vomited blood in depression when he heard the words. The guy with feelings had planned to prove himself from the very beginning, and was even angry with himself to expose his black material, and then resolve the problems caused by his identity by shaping a glorious image. This interlocking and sinister behavior made Akainu, who wanted justice at all costs for Duan Yi, feel so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. He looked at Luffy next to Whitebeard with an angry expression on his face. No matter what the war was like, his image was ruined in the eyes of the people of the world. He looked at Luffy with a sneer and cursed. "Kill Whitebeard's son, and want Whitebeard to accept your love. Idiot, let me see how you come back alive." It is obvious that Akainu understands Whitebeard's combat power and character, and he spent so much effort to weaken Whitebeard's combat power and cause diseases in his body. Moreover, with Whitebeard's character, he would not thank Luffy for what he did, but killing Delaxi would anger Whitebeard and let him attack Luffy. After all, in Whitebeard's view, he was just a deceived son, and as a father, he naturally had to forgive him. At this time, the Whitebeard Conqueror's haki was hitting the battlefield recklessly, and this natural haki didn't weaken in the slightest because of his weakened body. Many Marines retreating from the field are knocked unconscious by the impact of Conqueror's haki. The pirates took advantage of the victory and chased towards the wall. But Luffy, who bears the brunt, is not afraid at all, and the equally terrifying Conqueror's haki rushes out of his body. The two huge oars seemed to collide with the red and blue dividing lines, and the Moby DK under their feet broke from the middle instantly. Everyone looked at Luffy in shock. Conqueror's haki. There was a complicated light in Sengoku's eyes. Akainu looked at Luffy with a cloudy expression on his face. This kind of talent, which is said to happen to only 1 in a million people, actually appeared in this fluffy kid. And he knows that the so-called Conqueror's haki is a representative of not yielding to others. In the entire marine, only Sengoku believes in the justice of the ruler of the world so that he has Conqueror's haki. After seeing Luffy's Conqueror's haki burst out, Akainu instantly knew that this guy was definitely his worst enemy in Ascension. Because he will never be willing to be inferior to anyone. Advertisement. At this time, Whitebeard also looked at Luffy in shock. Luffy with Conqueror's haki will become a marine. But at this time, Whitebeard couldn't care less about these things. No matter if he persuaded Blackbeard to kidnap his captain or kill his own son Delaxi, Whitebeard and Luffy were destined to have a death feud with Luffy. Asking for flowers. Monkey D. Luffy, show me what's so special about redheads betting on left hands. Whitebeard shouted loudly, the Kong Yunchi in his hand spun at a high speed, and then slashed towards Luffy. At this time, a few hours had passed since early morning, and Luffy in the morning had already possessed the same level of strength as the 4 emperors. Swinging the divine axe Rita with one hand, with a bang, the magic power collided with the high-level armed color emission through the air. A terrifying shock wave exploded from the bow of the ship where the two were standing, and the bow of the Moby DK, which was already broken, was instantly shattered. Marco, Ace and others looked at the scrapped Moby DK with distress. This was their partner carrying their dreams. At this time, it was completely shattered into pieces under the confrontation of 2 4 emperors. 0. Hoo la la la, I didn't expect you, a brat, to have such power. Whitebeard laughed as he watched Luffy fight him. Luffy's strength is slightly inferior to what I learned from Ace, and there is also this strange move of transforming into a blue titan. But at this time, it seems that Luffy is obviously hiding his strength, but in terms of strength, Luffy has already satisfied the 4 emperors, greeting and fighting. You must know that when the so-called 5 emperors Luffy fought against Kaido for the first time, he was smashed with a stick. The etiquette for Redhead and Whitebeard, Kaido and Ant to meet is to have a big talk first, to see if you can catch it. At this time, Whitebeard fully recognized Luffy's strength, and he already had the same strength as the top powerhouses in the sea. Since the greetings have been made, let's start. I want to let you know that there is a big gap between the emperors. Hoo la 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 la. Whitebeard laughed loudly, holding Kong Yunchi with both hands. Emission and Conquerors were entwined and attached to the blade at the same time, and swung towards Luffy. And Luffy loaded with the Ace Kano template is not afraid at all. The terrifying power endowed by the sun's divine power, coupled with the invincible artifact Rita, makes Luffy directly choose to head-to-head with Whitebeard. The battle between the absolute power that shocked the world for a moment and the absolute power was shown in the camera. Chapter 243 In Heaven and Earth, I am the only one. Advertisement. Impossible. How could anyone stand up to Whitebeard? Reporters stared dumbfounded as Luffy and Whitebeard got into a frantic fight. Except for the collision between the weapons, the two of them didn't even bother to hide their fists. If you punch me, I will punch you back. It was as if 2 Fanma Yujiro were standing and masturbating, which was extremely shocking. With each punch, the bodies of the 2 people stepped on a big hole in the hard ice. Akainu clenched his fists with disbelief on his face. Impossible. How can a mere brat be so strong? Both Sengoku and Garp looked at Luffy in shock. Although they heard the report that he defeated Rayleigh, they always thought that it was with the help of other vice admirals. Moreover, Whitebeard's target is Roger, and his strength is definitely stronger than that of Rayleigh, who is the Emperor's deputy. But what did they see? They saw that Luffy, who was just 18, was fighting against the 060, the strongest man in the world, and he didn't lose in the slightest. This is more shocking than seeing a pig climbing a tree. After all, there are devil fruits in this world, and it seems more acceptable for a pig to climb a tree. But the strong are all honed through countless fights, battles, and exercises. Back then, Kaido also had a meeting with Moria on June 4th. However, Luffy has only been out to sea for a few days, and Garp personally sent uniforms and badges to Luffy when he went out to sea. In just over 3 months, he has soared from an ordinary school-level dish to the stage of 4 emperors, the strongest force in the sea. Even Bullet, who was tied with Rayleigh at the age of 16, is not so outrageous, is it? You must know that Luffy is facing the most recognized 4 emperors today. Although he is seriously ill now, no one has ever doubted the title of the strongest man in the world. Sengoku came back to his senses after watching the two fighting like madmen, and hurriedly took out a communication phone bug and ordered loudly, the original plan has been changed. Put the live broadcast screen to Whitebeard. The rest will proceed as originally planned. In the original plan, Sengoku planned to shut down the live broadcast and execute the prisoners in advance to win by any means. Let Marine's losses be minimized, and let the world only see Marine's final victory. Because he understands Whitebeard's true strength, even if he and Garp shoot at the same time, they can still cause a lot of casualties to Marine. Golden Lion Shiki, who was as famous as Whitebeard at the beginning, broke into Marine Base alone as the best example. Advertisement. At this time, although I and Garp are not in the least against Whitebeard, and even Garp is stronger than Whitebeard, they have not yet reached the point of instant killing. The more powerful the confrontation is, the longer the fight will be, and in the end it will be all about physical strength and willpower. Because everyone relies on hockey to decide the outcome, and everyone's hockey is of the same level, even if they are strong, they are not strong enough. The damage caused can easily destroy the entire Marineford, so the main generals of both sides have been restrained from making a move. This is also the reason why Sengoku agreed to Akainu's backstab plan, because Sengoku wanted a crushing victory to enhance Marine's power and influence to settle in New World. Instead of 3 admirals rounded up Whitebeard, who was beaten embarrassingly and ended up victorious. However, the appearance of Luffy broke his plan and almost made Sengoku doubt his life. However, what happened next made Sengoku overjoyed. A Marine Vice Admiral could fight against the strongest 4 emperors. Is there anything more exciting than having a hero Garp again? Rocks, which was invincible at the beginning, was terminated by Garp, and became a nightmare for pirates at sea. Even the king of pirates was chased and ran around in a hurry. If the world's strongest man is terminated again by Garp's grandson, then Marine's reputation will definitely reach an unprecedented peak. So Sengoku instantly aimed all the promotions at Luffy, and let the people of the world witness the birth of a new generation of marine heroes. Seeing this scene, Akainu's face turned livid. The absolute justice he believed in couldn't see the world's #1 criminal, Monkey D. Dragon's son, being so prominent. HMPH. I won't have my meteor volcano for a while, let me see how you clean up these tens of thousands of pirates. Akainu looked coldly at Luffy in the field and sneered. At this time, Sengoku also completely exposed Marine's fangs, and a group of pacifists appeared from the Crescent Bay Pier and completely wrapped the pirates in the frozen bay. Whitebeard. It's not just a public execution this time, none of your pirates can escape this time. Sengoku looked excited when he saw the success of the battle plan. At this time, the entire Whitebeard pirate group has been completely surrounded by the frozen sea in the bay. What is left now is to let Akainu melt the ice, and all the pirates will become soaked chickens to be slaughtered. HQ. Big news. The human weapon developed by D. Vegapunk appeared. The reporter of Sabaody Archipelago looked at the pacifist next to the camera and excitedly sent back the big news with a phone bug. Whitebeard pirates. Dumplings. At this time, on Luffy's side, a transparent ball appeared in Whitebeard's hand, and the force of the movement was attached to his fist and smashed towards Luffy. Advertisement. In the instant vibrating space close to Luffy, Admiral Luffy's whole body was enveloped in it. With a bang, the ice cracked, and Luffy spurted out a mouthful of blood and was thrown into the seawater under the ice. Hoo la la la, you are still too young. Whitebeard looked up to the sky with a knife in his hand and laughed. The faces of Sengoku and Garp on the execution platform changed greatly. Not good. Luffy can't hold on anymore. Akainu even showed a gloating expression on his face, breaking my plan. That's Whitebeard. If I wasn't sure, I would have sent someone to assassinate him first. Seriously. Whitebeard laughed loudly when he heard the words, Hoo la la la. Somebody go and fish him up. It's my repayment of his 5.0 grace just now. Everyone looked at him strangely. How could it be hot? We are on the frozen sea of Aokiji. Whitebeard looked condescendingly at Luffy, who disappeared into the sea, and said, yes, you are very strong, but unfortunately you are too young, and with your current strength, you are still short of reaching the top, so you just stay in the water honestly. Let's go, if you can survive after the war. As soon as Ace's expression changed, he subconsciously jumped into the sea, but was caught by Whitebeard in midair. The frozen sea melted rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye. Even the entire ice sheet is falling fast. Ace, he will be your worst enemy in the future, are you sure you want to go to him? Everyone looked at the scene in front of them in horror. However, they suddenly found that the frozen sea water boiled instantly. Ace was overjoyed when he heard the words, thank you, Dad. However, within a second, the pirate jumped out of the water with a cry, hot. Hot, hot. Whitebeard looked at Ace seriously and said, sure, he's my younger brother, Ace said anxiously. In the sky and in the world, I am the only one. The nearby pirates saw Whitebeard's Kamui cheering loudly, and one of them jumped into the water below the freezing water. Nani, what happened? Garp's face changed. Not good. Luffy is demon fruit power. But at this moment, an extremely arrogant voice came from the ground. Chapter 244, The Whitebeard Pirates. Disband. Advertisement. In the sky and in the world, I am the only one. The arrogant voice came. The seawater at the mouth of the bay sank at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the ice on which the pirates stood began to melt rapidly. Nani, what happened? Everyone looked at the scene in front of them in horror. Whitebeard stared at the sea below and murmured, impossible. Ace stared at the bottom of the sea with his eyes wide open. The water near the port was not too deep. Little Ozzy, who was 38 meters tall, could lie down on the sea and walk forward. The depth of the seabed in the bay is only more than 10 meters at best. At this time, a golden light shone on the originally dark seabed. The terrifying high temperature directly evaporated and boiled the sea water. Everyone stared at the golden light. Akainu lost his voice with an ugly face. Impossible. Aokiji's frozen ice quickly disappeared, and the mid-sea fish jumped twice on the dry bottom and then turned into grilled fish. The ground centered on Luffy was directly burned into lava, as if a strange domain shrouded the bay, and the seawater pouring into the bay vaporized instantly as soon as it entered Luffy's domain. The entire bay has become a purgatory. Luffy pointed contemptuously at Whitebeard who had fallen to the ground with a finger. 30 seconds. Whitebeard was stunned and subconsciously asked, "What 30 seconds? Fix you in 30 seconds." Luffy's arrogant voice spread throughout the battlefield. "In the sky and in the world, I am the only one. Extreme. Ace Kano's ultimate skill, you can use the price of burning life to force into noon for a minute. And Luffy's vitality can only support this state for 30 seconds. This is why Luffy uttered wild words to Whitebeard. And there is no other reason for him to use this skill. Open black lens bracket host. Wong Luffy Monkey D. Luffy close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket currently loaded template. Sin of Pride, Ace Kano, close black lens bracket. Character reset countdown. 10 minutes and 30 seconds. Character reduction degree, 99%. Advertisement. That's right, the plugin has expired. At this time, there are still nearly 3 hours before noon. Luffy simply isn't good enough to use this template to wait until the normal use of a minute at noon. This is why Luffy couldn't wait to kill Whitebeard ahead of time. He wasn't sure that the next template would be able to follow this kind of bug-level template that had nothing to do with the ontology. Whitebeard drove such an aggressive Luffy and suddenly laughed, "Little brat. Even your grandpa dare not say this to me. Luffy, hurry up and back down. You are no match for Dad." Ace beside Whitebeard yelled. Luffy, on the other hand, looked at Whitebeard motionless, as his figure was expanding little by little. In the astonished eyes of everyone, Luffy's height and body shape have completely changed to be almost the same as Whitebeard's, and the muscles on his body are more terrifying than Whitebeard's. The magic imprint of the sin of the lion exposed by the bare upper body is like a lion with its mouth open, impacting the audience in Sabaody. Sengoku's pupils shrank, and Luffy's changes directly reminded him of the legendary human body giant experiment developed by the world government. CP0, who was lurking in the battlefield in Sabaody archipelago, looked at Luffy in shock. This guy. Could it be that he's awakened? The pirates in the bay felt a terrifying heat wave rushing towards their faces. If it weren't for the relatively high resistance of the people in pirate world, they would have doubted that they would be burned. Only Whitebeard said to Luffy with a long-lost fighting spirit on his face, "Boy. It's not just about being big and being strong. I saw a balloon representing Shock Fruit's ability suddenly appear above his Kong Yunchi." Whitebeard swung fiercely at Luffy, and a terrifying shock wave rushed towards Luffy. This is exactly the move that the three admirals teamed up to block with the advanced weapon color emission. And this time Whitebeard's full power is more than twice as powerful as that used against the three admirals. However, at this time Luffy has no intention of dodging at all. With a bang, a terrifying gully was rammed into the bottom of the sea, and the huge impact directly hit Luffy's body. Nani? Why didn't he hide? Didn't he defend himself? All the people watching the battle looked at Luffy who didn't move at all in astonishment. The massive impact knocked Luffy back several meters. However, there is no scar on his horned dragon-like muscles. Whitebeard's terrifying attack didn't even break through Luffy's defense. Everyone's eyeballs glared out of their sockets when they saw the scene in front of them. Impossible. Advertisement. Even Whitebeard's face turned livid, he never thought that his attack would not work. Could it be a devil fruit ability like the barrier fruit ability for bug-level defense? However, Baihu looked at the possibility of Luffy smoking. He actually relied on his physical strength to withstand his full blow. 10 seconds. Luffy spat a time again at Whitebeard now. In the next second, the lava under Luffy's feet exploded instantly. A roar, and Luffy's figure appeared in front of Whitebeard in an instant. "I'm too young." Who said that? Luffy held the divine axe Rita with one hand, and supported the ground with the other hand, and the blow that made the demon god Jolin feel scared was completely revealed in the eyes of the strong in the world of pirates. Whitebeard stared blankly at the chest in front of him. Although his heart was pierced, he still survived as if he had returned to life by virtue of his terrifying strength. Whitebeard looked at Luffy in shock. This guy broke through the sound barrier with pure explosive power alone. Even the sparkling fruit that Kizaru developed at this time was not as fast as Luffy's short-distance explosion just now. "Repay me for saving you." Who allowed this? The terrifying sun appeared above Rita's axe, Holy Lance Ace Kano. So fast. A fear of death filled Whitebeard's heart. Daddy. The magic power in Luffy's body exploded instantly, and in Whitebeard's eyes, Luffy's figure was infinitely taller, as if he was standing in front of him like 10 ants. In his eyes, his glorious life appeared like a flying horse, and then he looked at the captains on the execution platform and Ace beside him. Ace on the side stared at the scene in front of him. His most beloved father died at the hands of his proudest brother. Little ones. Now is the final captain's order. With a bang, huge magic power shot out from the god axe Rita like a long spear, directly piercing Whitebeard's heart. The violent explosion after penetrating Whitebeard blasted a huge crater more than 10 meters out of the seabed. Whitebeard pirates. Disbanded. Luffy looked down at Whitebeard below him with a strength beyond the pirate dimension and said arrogantly. Artifact Liberation. Chapter 245 The Dead Marine Hero, the Golden Lion Luffy is birth. Advertisement. Daddy. All the pirates looked at the straight figure standing in the middle of the battlefield in disbelief. Akainu and Garp's eyes widened in disbelief. The reporters of Sabaody Archipelago outside the live broadcast grew their mouths. The world's strongest man has changed hands. Doflamingo looked excitedly at the seriously injured Whitebeard's mouth and said, "Hey, is it true or not?" Whitebeard scanned the surroundings with mighty strength, and saw that he was going to throw Chu Yunchi to the ground with a clang. With the last of his strength, he hit an empty shock. The sky and the earth trembled, and the huge icebergs on both sides of Marineford that Aokiji used to block the pirates were instantly shattered. The fine ice all over the sky is slowly falling from the sky like snowflakes. Whitebeard sadly raised his head and looked at Squad and the others on the execution platform. "Sorry, I'm afraid I can't save you, the only thing I can do is to be with you." Schoolyard on the stage looked at Whitebeard with a sad face. "Dad. I'm sorry." Whitebeard glanced at Luffy who was standing motionless in front of him, and shouted to the rest of the pirates, "Listen up, this is the final captain's order." Finally. "Daddy. No, Daddy, we don't want to hear anything, Dad. Let's go back to New World together." The pirates burst into tears seeing their father panting. "Shut up, just listen, you and I are here to part, everyone must go back to New World alive." Saying that, Whitebeard raised his arms with all his strength. "I am a remnant of the old age. There is no boat that can carry me in the new age." Zoro and the others who were watching the show in the stands had strange expressions on their faces. "What the hell, how do you feel where you heard this sentence?" Click. A huge crack appeared in the air and spread directly to the entire sky. The violent shaking made the whole Marineford crumbling. Earthquake. It is another catastrophic move besides seaquake and airquake. The earthquake caused by devil fruit is enough to destroy an island. Luffy. Stop him. Advertisement. Sengoku roared loudly at Luffy in front of Whitebeard, but Luffy burst out with bright flames and disappeared like a sun. "Nani? How is it possible?" Sengoku looked at Luffy in bewilderment, and Garp looked at the scene in disbelief. Ace was taken aback for a moment, then roared in despair, "Luffy." Whitebeard looked at the scene in front of him with a dazed face, MMP in his heart, "Your uncle, is this a move that kills you all? How much hatred does Lousy have against you? How much hatred is it worth you to do this? If I had known that I would die after hitting it, wouldn't Lousy hide in it?" However, what he needs to face now is not this sad emotion, but the seawater pouring in from outside the port after the domain disappeared after Luffy's death. The earthquake that was originally intended to break the road for the suns had to be temporarily replaced by a sea earthquake to gain a little respite. "Oz!" Marco shouted, and Luffy spent 1 minute at noon with his life to make Zombie Ozzy and Little Ozzy fall into the sea at the same time. The shadow of the Zombie Ozzy flew out due to touching the sea water. At this time, Ozzy had been beaten by Moria and was injured all over his body. "Daddy!" Little Ozzy responded loudly, and kicked the Zombie Ozzy down in Crescent Bay with all his might. The huge body fills most of the entire Crescent Bay. "My zombie warrior!" Moria, who was on Oz's stomach, screamed in anger. Marco roared. "Everyone jump on the devil's body." Many pirates groaned and crawled towards the body of Zombie Ozzy. Moria screams from the cab, "What are you bastards doing? Get off my Mojin." Foil Vista appeared in front of Moria at some unknown time. Rondo. The gorgeous slash mixed with roses directly hit Moria's body. "It hurts. It hurts. It hurts." Moria fell down and rolled in pain. Marco yelled at Ace who was in a daze. "Ace. This is not the time for you to be in a daze. I know you are sad. Save Dad first." Ace was shocked when he heard the words, "Daddy." Advertisement. He has a dad. Together they lifted Whitebeard over Ozzy's head. The sea water that was frozen in the air by Hygen immediately smashed down. It flooded into the bay again. The dog was stunned. Did he blame Luffy wrongly, and he sacrificed his life for justice? At most, he planned to delay the release of Meteor Volcano for a while. After all, he wanted the lives of the Whitebeard pirates more than Luffy's life. However, how long did it take? Only a few rounds of fighting, no more than half an hour before and after. Seeing that Whitebeard couldn't survive at this time. And Luffy was reduced to ashes. Akainu was so touched at this moment, he shouted at the Marines, "Go. Annihilate these vicious pirates. Don't let the sacrifice made by Luffy Vice Admiral go to waste." All the Marines looked at the tens of thousands of pirates who barely had a place on Oz's body. "Brothers, avenge Luffy Vice Admiral. Fire. Fire them." At this time, Sengoku suddenly found that Garp had disappeared on the execution platform. He hurriedly searched and saw the cassette with a gloomy face 10 steps away from the port towards the direction of the beard. Meteor Volcano. At this time, Akainu started to shoot magma towards the sky crazily, and the giant fists of magma smashed towards the pirates on Oz. At this time, the pirates are like targets, Zhao Chenjiao, being baptized by artillery fire and meteor fire rain. At this moment, the reporters of Sabaody Archipelago stared at the continuous breaking news with horrified expressions. Whitebeard is dead. No, Golden Lion Vice Admiral and Whitebeard died together. He wins for Marine. Whitebeard is at the end of his battle. My God, there is such a selfless Marine, his deeds should be known by the world. Nobles, civilians, reporters, and pirates were all moved by this Luffy who sacrificed his life for righteousness. 10 pieces of news spread from Sabaody Archipelago to all parts of the world. The CPO hidden in the crowd received the corresponding order, and retreated silently. A hero who has died is no longer a threat, and there is no need to control the fish theory. For a while, the news that Luffy sacrificed his life for Whitebeard spread directly into the ocean.